cash flow is a terrible way to replace your income. This was uh, a post by David Green on Instagram, or the gram of Insta, where obviously he was sparking good conversation in the comments. And I want to talk about how you retire on cash flow, how you replace your W-2 with cash flow. His actual words, W-2 or rental income is a terrible way to replace the W-2 that you hate. And this is not going to be a video of David's right, but it's going to be a video of David's right and there's a difference because all words before but are wind. They mean nothing. But I'm connecting this with an and. If you hate your W-2, the minimum of 5 to 10 years that it takes to replace your W-2 income would be a terrible thing to do to stay in a W-2 that you hate. The best way to replace a W-2 that you hate is with a different W-2. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. So I need the W-2 so that I can have money to put to work so that eventually I don't have to work. That was my goal. Financial freedom came through putting money to work so I don't have to. But is rental income a terrible way to replace your W-2? In a video where David was talking about this, because he's smart, the post sparks conversation. The conversation spoke interest. People talk about it, top of mind awareness. For transparency's sake, I think I've been pretty clear with people. I'm a David Green fan, right? I watched BiggerPockets for a long time. I liked his episode. I like when he came on as a host. I've interacted with him a few times. I have my own opinion of why he is no longer working for BiggerPockets or with BiggerPockets, and I might share that in this video. But I like the way he articulates, the way he uses analogies to make points. I don't know if it's because I associate him with Brandon Turner, but I think he's really good at that. And in a video where he was talking about, yeah, rental income is a terrible way to replace your W-2, he said things like $5,000 a month coming in from your W-2 and $5,000 a month coming in from rental properties is very different. And I've said this to a few friends, and they said, well, of course it's very different. You have to work for the $5,000 coming in from the W-2, and you had to do work to get the $5,000 a month coming in from rental properties. So they're inherently different. But I think, implied and inferred, David had a good point here, where if you have $5,000 a month coming in from your W-2, you have some control there. You may have vacation time. So if you have a week where you can't work, you cover it with vacation time. You may have sick time. If you get replaced, fired, let go, there are all kinds of systems in place to protect you from that W-2 income going away, right? I talk often about, I think the person that's in the biggest risk of a recession is a person with a W-2. Because you only have one source of income and it's kind of easy for that to go away. Or even take out a recession can be replaced with AI. And I actually have a complaint about AI coming up if you want to hear that. So we have your job. And I talk often about how the most scared I was in my entire life as far as income and money goes is when I only had a job as a source of income. Got the Marine Corps downsized after Desert Storm, or an injury could change your trajectory. And because of the 2008 housing crash, I got laid off from law enforcement. So my sources of possible pensions kept getting taken away. And that's very frustrating. However, David has a good point. $5,000 coming in from your W-2 is fairly consistent. It's not going to really be impacted by an eviction or a large expense. You have vacation that you've saved up, you have holiday pay, you have sick time, you have unemployment insurance. You have this thing called the Trade Act. If your job is outsourced, usually to something from another country, so a mill shuts down because that product is going to be made in another country, the Trade Act is WIOA funds, Workforce Opportunity Innovation Act. Probably butchered that, should have took a note. But a lot of CDL students would get this funding from the federal government, taxpayer money, designed to make people more employable. And the idea here is this is actually, in my opinion, a good use of taxes, because what they did is they got somebody a license. So you might be sent to culinary school, cosmetology school, welding school, underwater welding if you're in the Seattle area, or CDL school. And then now you have a licensure that gets you a lot of money where you will pay a lot of taxes in the future. So it's a good investment from the government. But you have these layers of protection with that W-2 versus now it takes you that $5,000 a month to live. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. The majority, not most, but the majority of people live paycheck to paycheck. So that $5,000 is carrying them from week to week, by week to by week, whatever your method is. So now let's look at $5,000 a month coming in from rental properties, and you have the same expenses, and we're going to use the same person. It's taking you $5,000 to live on your W-2, and you're going month to month, and then $5,000 a month coming in from rentals going month to month. If that was your only source of income, and you have a prolonged eviction, you have a pandemic, an eviction moratorium, people can't be evicted, and you can't raise rents, or they don't have to pay their rent. You have these things happen. That $5,000 a month disappears really quick, but your bills don't. You still have your mortgage, you still have expenses, you still have all of the expenses of your life that the $5,000 was going to fund. So David's got a good point, which is why, and I have how you retire, how you live on cash flow is not the equivalent of a W-2. We don't replace our W-2. For actual expenses, you're going to need less money, right? Right now, while working a W-2, you are saving for retirement. You are paying the most in taxes. You have a commute. You might have work-related expenses. So for expenses, you need less, which makes you think, I would think you need less cash flow. And that's not what I'm saying at all. It's actually the exact opposite. If it took $5,000 a month for you to live on your W-2, and you need $5,000 a month to live with rental income, the way you structure your portfolio is that you don't replace your W-2 to live on it with the same amount. You have you have financial independence and you have financial freedom. Those two numbers are different. Financial independence is when you are independent on your finances. You can cover your expenses. This doesn't mean you don't work. This means you might be able to change jobs, might be able to take a job you like more because you don't have to worry so much about how much you make. But financial independence doesn't mean that you can retire early. Financial freedom is when you have enough money coming in to where you could do something like retire or not work a W-2. So how could you live on cash flow? The first thing is you're not just going to replace your W-2. You're going to make a lot more money than your financial independence number. And you have to figure out your financial independence number by figuring out what type of lifestyle you want to live. And I've got a couple of steps here that I want to go through. The first one is cash flow a terrible way to replace your W-2? Yes. For the first 6 to 10 years, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're living on our W-2, we're adding our cash flow to our investing fund so that the income snowball can be a thing. This is where we get pay raises at work, promotion, change companies, overtime, side hustle, and your assets that you're purchasing, whether it's a dividend or real estate or whatever your asset class that you chose, that's going to add to your ability to invest. You're going to own the assets for a few years. So you have things happening like rent increases, opportunities to refinance, shop around for better insurance rates, all of the ways that you can increase your income from your assets while working. So that's the first thing, is you don't for several years. The second is you have to let time do its thing, right? I talk often about my journey was 10 years. I planned on buying one rental property every other year. So at 10 years, I'd have five. Wasn't planning on retiring early. The income snowball kicked in around 5 or 6 years. And I started getting more money. So I bought properties faster. So I got to 7 properties with 16 units and retired in 2022. Added a duplex since then. So mine continued to grow. I didn't start earning enough money off of my rentals to cover my expenses and then retire. I earned enough from my W-2 and my rentals to add rentals faster. So whatever asset you're investing in as you make more money from work or decrease your expenses, like house hacking the way I did, and you can acquire more of your assets faster, whether it's stocks, crypto, real estate, doesn't matter the asset class, so you have to include time in there. You need to know the lifestyle you want to live, right? This is one that could be its own standalone video. because most people live where they are because of their job. Even if you're a remote worker, you still have to live where there's Wi-Fi. Do you want to live in a place where there's Wi-Fi? Do you want to unplug? Do you want to do something where the type of work that you had to do doesn't impact where you live? That could impact your expenses, right? If there's a country you really want to live or a state you really want to live in, maybe that state's more expensive. Maybe the tax situation in that state is very different too. So figuring out the type of life you want before you would replace your W-2 with your cash flow is figuring out those two numbers. What is your financial independence number and your financial freedom number based on where you're going to live when you don't work? That can change. You can geo arbitrage and go to somewhere like Colombia or Thailand, where the expenses for the dollar is stronger and goes much further. You can go to some place like Portugal, where you heard that's what happened there, and that was 5 years ago, and it's not the case anymore. You find that out and decide not to do it. Figuring out the type of life you want lets you know how much cash flow you're going to need, not based on your expenses, but based on a couple of other things. One, is the asset class that you're investing in going to benefit from or be hurt by inflation? Right? This is a hard concept to get into a video, actually hard concept to get in without having its entire own course, is the type of wealth you have, not just the more wealthy or the less wealthy, the type of wealth you have can actually benefit from inflation. And you can hate me all you want, but this is why so many wealthy people vote left. They want to see Democrats in office. Democrats cause inflation. They make more regulations, which limits all kinds of things, causes more dollars searching after the same amount of resources, and it causes inflation, which makes rich people richer because it takes more of the currency to get the asset. It takes more of the currency to rent the asset. It takes more of the currency to buy the stock. So if you own the asset, a lot of wealthy people vote left because it's going to make them more wealthy. Is inflation factored in to how you're investing? Now, this can be something simple, like the way Michael Zuber looked at it. He wanted to buy 4 rental properties. He talks about just getting to 4. And he has a great community called One Rental at a Time, if you haven't heard of it. And the idea is, if you get to 4, a couple things happen. One, you then decide if you like this. And maybe you stop at 4 and you never go any further, or maybe you decide it's not for you and you get out of it. But if you get to 4, somewhere between 30 and 45, those properties would be paid off around normal retirement age for those people who still assume that a retirement is an age. 4 paid off properties will drastically change what your retirement's going to look like. Millions of dollars in net worth, thousands of dollars a month in cash flow. This is a huge impact. Now, many people get to 4, realize that, yeah, starting out in the learning was the hardest part. Now you're just rinsing and repeating something that's super boring and not easy, but a lot easier than you were expecting it to be. And you go to 5 or 10, and you make financial freedom possible. So to look at cash flow, if you're going to retire on it with a dividend stock, is inflation factored into your dividends? Will it grow enough to keep up with inflation, to outpace it, to match the place you want to live in and the lifestyle you want to live? I chose rentals. Doesn't mean it's the right way. It just means it was the way for me. Rentals benefit from inflation. A couple things happen. Inflation means it takes more currency to do things. So rents go up, right? Look what historical rents since 1940, rents have never once gone down. They have flatlined sometimes for a few years, but you can watch the chart. They go up over time because it's not because rent costs more. It's because it takes more currency to rent the same thing. If you do go to sell, yeah, there is appreciation that's sometimes caused by limited supply. So if you're in one of those blue states that limits building and puts more building permits requirements and does things like rent control, so it limits investors from desiring to buy, so it makes builders not want to build, and you actually further limit the supply, you're going to have more appreciation. Can't predict the future, but we can look at it, the past, and see that that's what's happened. So rentals benefit from being in a blue state if you're looking for appreciation. When you know your financial independence number, how much you're spending, there is a thing, and this is the last thing I'll wrap up with, how to live on cash flow. I want you to understand this is on a sliding scale, and I call this the multiplier. This is where financial freedom comes from. And the smaller amount that you need to live, the bigger your multiplier. And this is for safety. The idea being, if you need $1,000 a month to live because you move somewhere like Thailand, and $1,000 a month will give you a comfortable life. You might not be living like a king, like you hear people say. That would probably take $3,000 or $4,000 a month. But for $1,000 a month, you can, healthcare, Regents, Blue Shield, it's like $60 a month for a couple. 4-star hotels, $15 a night in some of these places. You can do Airbnb for $300 a month. So $1,000 a month gets you a pretty reasonable existence. Would you want to retire on $1,000 a month? One forced trip because you're there with your passport, which means you don't have a permanent visa. You need to leave at least once a year, one day out of the year. That expense can take up your entire month's income. So the smaller amount of $1,000, I would want 5 or 6 times that amount. So if I had $5,000 or $6,000 a month coming in, I would retire on a lifestyle that only needed $1,000 a month and be confident that I wouldn't have to go back to work as long as I invested in an asset class that accounted for inflation. If you need $50,000 a month to live your life, you have an extravagant Malibu beach, expensive, whatever place. I would say Santa Monica, but I've been watching Stephan, and even though I went there every weekend as a kid, wow, it's not expensive anymore. It might be expensive, but it's not the lifestyle I would want. But if you need $50,000 a month to live, I don't think you need $250,000 a month coming in. This is where I think a 1.5 multiplier would probably be enough. I'm thinking I know one couple in my entire life that actually needs $50,000 a month coming in to be comfortable. If you're like most people, and you probably need around $10,000 a month coming in, because most people don't even make that while they're working, right? The average income not being $120,000 a year, although it's getting closer. $10,000 a month in cash flow coming in, I think a 3-time multiplier would probably be enough. If you need 10,000 and you have 30, you can handle things like an eviction, a lawsuit, pandemic, an eviction moratorium, a stock market crash, right? You have the buckets method if you invest in the stocks, of course, but knowing that your multiplier is bigger than what you need. For me, I specifically spend around $4,000 a month for the lifestyle that I want. I house hack, so I don't have housing expense. I drive paid off vehicles, but I do save a certain amount every month for vehicles. When I travel, I don't go to Switzerland or Iceland, right, where it's very expensive, and watch the dollar conversion there. I go to this winter, I'm going to Thailand. I'm probably going to go to the Philippines pretty soon. And somebody suggested Argentina. So I'm going to do some research on, because there's 2 criteria, really, there's several criteria, but one is, strength of the dollar. But the second one is, do they like Americans there? Because that is an ever shrinking pool of places where you can go, where I can go. So since I need about 4,000, and what I did is I studied a 6-month period of doing everything I want, requiring myself to go out and eat, not living frugal. I didn't retire to live frugally. I don't really care about the vehicle that I drive because I'm not driving it very much. I don't have a commute to work, right? I drive to where I'm scuba diving and maybe the airport. No, I have somebody take me. Yeah, I don't drive that much unless I'm driving to deliver material to a rental, which I should probably do more often. Instead of paying somebody to do it. Although I'm happy to pay people to do the easy stuff because then they're more likely to do the hard stuff. I used a multiplier of 4. When my cash flow passed $16,000 a month, I felt kind of silly going to work. Now, if you're investing, trying to reach financial freedom, and you're looking at retiring early, that's kind of the combination of the two for me. I don't just want financial freedom so I can go out and do any job I want because I don't really want a job. I'm super lazy. I want to do anything I want every day. And sometimes anything means nothing. Not very often, but once in a while. Then the second thing, and I take this from, and I reference him all the time. Someday I'll explain why. But Joe Kuhn, who invests in stocks, he's got the bucket method. He's got a channel here on YouTube, KUHN. If you invest in stocks, since that's not my thing, I recommend you go check out him or maybe check out Azul. Azul is also another stock investor. Azul is like a financial planner, and Kuhn was an engineer doing operational change management stuff. Both of them invest differently than I do. And because again, I'll say this again, there is no one right way, but there's a one right way for you. And one of the people that I reference on my channel will have information that can help you. But Joe talks about one of the bigger mistakes that people make. Now, I think recently he referenced that it's not taking care of their health, but I think for several videos, I saw him talk about not stress testing your retirement, right? He did kind of like you can go to diontalk.com, book an hour if you want to do like a review of your portfolio or your next step or make a binder strategy together. You can go, Joe Kuhn used to do consultation where you could book an hour with him. I don't think he does anymore, and I don't know that I will for very much longer either. I enjoy helping people. I like to book out the time for that, but it also gives me a schedule. I don't like that. But he said one of the biggest mistakes that people made was not testing their thing. And he said that the fewest mistakes he found, I think, was like 8 from somebody who was very organized. And he found people that doubled that in mistakes, and they're retiring for taxes and planning for withdrawals and all of the other things that goes into it. With real estate, how do you stress test, right? There is no Monte Carlo test that you can do. And Joe's got a specific software. He did a video recently where he literally broke down, here's how I stress test my retirement. You really can't do that with real estate. You can do hypotheticals in theory, right? So here's what I did. 2 things. One of them I get from Joe too. He's got a retirement group, people that he meets with often that he shares his information with, and they're in a similar situation or invest in a similar strategy. So they could tell him something he's not recognizing. Because have you ever done this? Like write a form, fill out a report, or submit a white paper, and you share it with somebody that's not involved, and they have what is called fresh eyes. And they look at your thing and they say, well, you spelled your name wrong, right? And you would have never seen it. Because when you make a mistake, you can't recognize it, but somebody else will. So having those people do that. So what I did is I found people like Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord, Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. I made a YouTube channel. I grew it to 10,000 subscribers so that I could make them a video with them where they did a portfolio deep dive and told me the best advice. That was a lot of work. Just find somebody who's willing to look at your portfolio or your investment strategy, who's also done what you're trying to do, and have them look for things that you might have missed. I bet they didn't know I was doing this all just to trick them into doing that for me. And so that was the first thing. Have soft eyes, right? Somebody who's done what you're trying to do, look at your stuff so that they can see the mistake that you'll never see, even though it's very obvious to somebody else and would be obvious to you. But once you've made it, your brain will keep overlooking it. And the second thing is I actually did a stress test. I reached financial freedom in 2018, right? My cash flow was enough for me to retire. So starting in 2018, I continued to work for a couple of reasons. One, I loved my job. I really enjoyed teaching. I don't know if you could tell, but I like trying to take a thought that can help somebody figure out the words they're going to take it from my head and put it in their head in a way that they'll retain it and understand it, which might not even be the way that I understood it. That's fascinating to me. So I enjoyed the job, but from 2018 till 2022, so for 4 years, I didn't touch one penny from my W-2 income. I started living off of the cash flow of my rentals. Now, David Green talks about, don't live on your cash flow if you need 5,000 from work and you have 5,000 from rentals. I totally agree. If you quit your job, I had 5,000 from work and 5,000 from rentals. It all went into one account. I don't have separate accounts. My entire business now with 18 rental, it looks like it's very kindergarten simple. One checking account, period, total to my name, to anything in my business. One saving account, one credit card. I had 2 banking accounts for a bit when I was above 250,000 for FDIC insurance purposes, but I'm back down to one. I have one spreadsheet with a tab for income and a tab for expenses. That's it. That is the totality of the business. There isn't all of this, I can make it as complicated as you want to. That's as complicated as I wanted it. This keeps trying to stick ads in here and I'm trying to catch them all, but sometimes it's quick. So I apologize for any ads that slip through. I wasn't going to monetize my channel, but YouTube doesn't promote a channel that's not monetized as much because they lose their revenue source. So I still try to keep them out. Now, yeah, just tell people you're from Canada. That's what I actually heard people doing, saying they're from Canada. That's a good idea. So, the squirrel ran off of the emperor's groove again. For 4 years, living off of the cash flow from the rentals, was a litmus test of, given the possible emergencies that can happen, like a pandemic, like an eviction moratorium, like a stock market crash, like people don't have to pay rent and you can't kick them out, like all of these things that can happen. Did I ever once in those 4 years have to touch my rental income, W-2 income? No. It ended up doing some research looking back, mostly for videos, more than I'm not this detail oriented. So as I was demoted down to the president of the company, I got to hire an assistant and make sure they were detail oriented because I'm not. I don't think I ever, from 2018 to 2022, spent or lived on anywhere close to 65% of the rental income, even on my months with the biggest expenses like a roof. So I was saving 100% of the W-2 income after taxes, and I was saving close to half of the rental income for those years. And then it grew. So this is how I replaced my W-2 income, by having 4 times what I needed and having a 4-year test where I didn't touch one penny from W-2 income. That's where the confidence came in 2022 to retire, and then have the last 2 years trying to figure out how to spend money and still not coming close to spending the amount of money that I make every month from real estate. Now, yes, I'm like Joe, it's different for stocks and real estate, have my buckets too. I've got reserves. I have insurance for different purposes. I have an umbrella policy for insurance. I have multiples of the cash flow that I need to live, multiples of the cash flow that I need to pay the mortgages, right? So over half my tenants cannot pay the rent. I still don't have to go back to work. I'm still making the mortgages. Rents can go down by 50%. I still don't have to go back to work. Still paying the mortgages, even though rents have never gone down since we started tracking the data in 1940, like I said. I still invested like I planned on it happening. How do I plan for inflation, like I talked about? Inflation will impact things like insurance cost, taxes, but it doesn't impact 30-year fixed rate debt. So we have what's called inflation-based debt destruction. It gets easier to pay off my debt as time goes by. It's easier to pay off the debt because of inflation. This is why the Fed wants that target rate of 2% inflation. It's because $35 trillion in debt for the government is easier to pay off, even though they're never going to, because they keep spending more money. Channeling my inner Ron Swanson. But that inflation is there as a feature, not a mistake. They do it on purpose. It is done on purpose. I'll benefit from that. And then I did the 4-year test, had multiples, replaced my W-2 with cash flow, retired on cash flow, live on cash flow, all the things that David Green was saying don't do, because it's don't do it once you meet your minimum threshold. Don't do it when it barely covers your expenses. You need that multiplier in there. And you need to know that whatever asset class you're investing in, whether it's all the ones I mentioned, stocks, a business, crypto, real estate, is that you're also planning for those things like inflation that are going to happen. Not just that your expenses are going to go up, but currently filling my tanks and going for a 4-dive day cost me in the US, I don't know, around $100. In Thailand, it was 30, including the meals and drinks and the hotel. So it's kind of a reason why I go there. Top 10 reasons and top 3 reasons that I could talk about on YouTube. I'm hoping that you'll look at this and understand that this is probably one of the reasons why we say things like the first 5 years suck. It's going to be a decade. And because we could take my friend Millennial Mike. He works in law enforcement. He is house hacking a duplex in a high cost of living area, and then he invests out of state. He has 27 rentals after investing for 5 years only. And I think on his cash flow right now, he can cover his expenses. Should he retire? Obviously, no. He's got a young kid. Things can happen. There could be problems with his rentals. And while he might have some reserves, he needs that multiplier to kick in. So he's got another couple of years, even though he's had a very productive first 5 years. I think minimum 2 more. He might think it's less. It might be less. I personally would say another 2. But if he did it for another 5 and he had that full decade done, because of the income snowball, because of the stabilization that he's done, what a 27-unit portfolio would look like after 5 more years of possible refinances to better debt, more partnerships or creative things that he's doing, a couple more burrs, all of the things that he's learned to do and incorporated in his strategy. First, he'll make my cash flow look tiny, right? Right now, it hovers around 21,000 a month. I think he'll make that look in 5 full years of investing. It would be I don't want to say double that. He'd probably be 50% bigger than that. Is it worth losing 5 more years of his life to investing in his job? Maybe. Only he can answer that. So this is one of my longer live streams. This is Tuesdays. Thanks for hanging out with me. The intro was meant to be 10 minutes. I did 30 minutes and 20 seconds. I think I nailed it. Does duration matter? Jason, Booger Fart Boy, howdy, Wayne, Dividend Dave, REI Jared, good to see you all here at the beginning. Old guy REI, Levita, good to see you. Rita, how to live off cash flow. Let me count the ways. Yes, exactly. That's the other hard part, is figuring out how do you spend money, right? We learn these habits that become traits, and it's hard to break them, right? Figuring out when you go out with your friends, first, if you were not a people person and you just thought of all of the excuses and reasons why you didn't have to go with your friends, that'd be me. But now actually going so that you're not living frugally. And then when you did go out with your friends, you didn't drink when you went out, because you could buy a $50 bottle at home that lasts at least 4 hours. Or you could spend $50 on 4 drinks when you go out. Do you have, oh, I don't have a chaser. Yeah. Like the ice water. Do you have an appetizer? Do you have a drink with your meal? That has to change eventually. When you travel, it becomes normal to go online and think, okay, where is, and I heard Jaspreet Singh from Minority Mindset talking about this. There were years when I traveled, and yes, I traveled to less expensive countries, but I was also compounding it with less expensive rentals and areas in those countries. Now, what matters to me, this is the most, no, it's the third most soft thing I'll probably ever say. The type of pillow at the hotel matters to me, because I can have allergy attacks. And if I want to scuba, nasal stuff is a massive problem. So I'll actually change hotels to a more expensive one if they have better bedding. Never would have thought of that ever before. So yeah, I don't live like some friends of mine who can spend the $50,000 a month to barely be comfortable. But I'm making sure that I'm spending at least enough to make retirement worth it. We're far enough into my video to where I don't think my brother will watch this. My brother's coming over Thursday. I'm going to do a live stream. I haven't figured out exactly how I want to do it, because I want to use him as the example. And I want him here because I don't want to talk about him this way behind his back, even if it's like on a video, which he would see eventually, maybe, possibly. I want him there when I say it. But I'm going to say some things that are blunt and to help him. But for the betterment of our relationship, I want him close enough to hit me if he feels like it. And the title of the video, so if you see this video coming out, it's going to be alive, but you can watch it in Futureland too. It's going to be, gotta keep a straight face. The sad, sad, sad truth of early retirement. And then I'm going to use my brother as an example. He's going to punch me. Late start wealth, freedom works. John Williams, howdy. Buzz Tune, good to see you here. Wealth building journey. In my live streams, I can see there's a few chats. I appreciate that. The point of these, I could do the short lives on like Thursdays and the weekends, 10, 20 minutes, because there are people who wouldn't click on a 2-hour video. But the purpose of the 2-hour videos is to answer questions. So I do an intro that's meant to be 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 30, because it's something I care about. And that 30 minutes or 10 minutes gives you a chance to get your questions into the comments. And we'll read. I haven't seen one put in yet that I haven't read out loud. Even the "Are you gay" one, which I gave, I think, the most arrogant answer to. Buzz Tune, howdy. Good evening, wealth building journey. PE turned RE. Howdy. Question, and thank you for putting question in there. For house hacking roommates, do you use standard lease or is there a special form? It's a standard lease with just a descriptor of the common areas and their private areas so that they know where their areas are that they're responsible for and that you don't have access to without the 48 hours of required notice. That's standard lease. So I've done roommates in the past and did the lease, the exact same lease. Somebody recently asked me for a lease. Email me again because I forgot to send it because I'm me and that's how my memory works. Same one. All right, Curtis, let me see if there's anything else I do with roommates. Put in an addendum because most of my properties are small multifamily rented by the unit, where the utilities are in the tenant's name. If it's a roommate situation, I have an addendum in there. So you were here in Washington. I could probably send you the exact verbiage. It's how does that worded? I don't know the exact wording. I have to look it up, but basically it means this is the average of what the water costs. This is what the average of the electric costs. If water or electric after you move in goes up by this amount, then there could be an adjustment to your cost based on this. Fancy lawyer verbiage to put it in there. But that's the one different with roommates because everything when they were roommates was in my name. Unless they want to put it in their name because they want to establish rental history credit, they might want internet in their name. If you have cable because you're 84 years old, you can have that in their name. Jared, Laura, howdy, Laura. Good to see you here. Joshua, the Phi couple. Nice. Howdy, Eddie. Good to see you. Curtis, I have a membership agreement for my tenants. Yeah, the rent by the room, that might be something you reach out to Jared for because he's got that's members, they're not tenants, which I believe makes evictions a lot easier because it's not an eviction. J Mess, have you ever switched a tenant from monthly payments to weekly payments? Kinda. I have a tenant that pays twice a month. So the easiest adjustment to make for tenants if their rent is if they struggle to get it in on time and they are always battling the late fees, is ask them why. And I've got a tenant who this is an interesting retirement format. Half of husband's pension and Social Security. Older person. And so Social Security comes in like on the third, and pension comes in, I think, on the third or fourth. So we set the lease up where rent's due on the 5th, not late till like the 10th or 11th or something. I have another tenant who forget what the reasoning was, but we were having a conversation because set this up to where it's easy. Now, if you had 100 units, this might be challenging. I only have 18, so it can be a little more, pay a little more attention to each tenant that way. He pays 2/3 of it at the beginning of the month and then 1/3 towards the end of the month. So I have designed it that way. It's not a weekly payment, but it is. And then I think I missed some super chats here. Make sure I catch those first. Try to get to those first. I see Dividend Dave. When I travel, I tell people I'm from Canada, then I spell it Cana, yeah, DA. Nice. You know the secret password to get into Canada. So that's a thing. When I was in Portugal, a couple things happened. First, everybody could tell you're a foreigner because the accent, right? And then they would ask where you're from. And I was talking to this couple from New Jersey, which they might want to be embarrassed for that too. But to us, me and my brother, they were talking, yeah, we're from New Jersey. He was in law enforcement and he was moving south, but he was in Portugal for traveling, him and his wife. And then we heard him talking to other people and they said they're from Canada. And I didn't get a chance to ask him why, but I'm pretty sure it's because of the second thing we saw happen was at a restaurant. They asked some people, Trump or Biden. They said Biden, and they got kicked out of the restaurant. Learn that lesson quick. Luckily, somebody else answered. So I would not have been kicked out of the restaurant. And I don't know that I would do the I'm from Canada thing. Yeah. I mean, why miss the good opportunity for a fight? Basilio, howdy. All-nighter hider, I'm here. Got my hands full, like button bruised. Bring the ear candy. Thank you. That's a good compliment. Almost as good as the compliment that I got earlier today. What's going on, Jared? Manuel, meowdy. I got a compliment today. My friend texted me who watches the content and actually said it's their favorite day of the week. That's a huge compliment. I'll pretend it was because it's Tuesday and it's a live stream. I don't know if that's what they meant. Is there another super chat? Here we go. Dennis, REI in life struggles, member 4 months, but not today. Question. Have you ever done a private money deal private money lending deal. I'm in the talks for a PML deal currently and curious if there are some things I should be paying attention to. I haven't. Millennial Mike has. I have several friends who invest in notes, and I have some friends that are private money lenders. I would make sure that it's viewed by an attorney for a couple of reasons. So this is me with no industry knowledge. What I've heard through friends. One, get everything in writing while everybody's getting along. There's no way you're going to put something in writing later when there's a disagreement. But two, have it recorded correctly. Make an actual note if it's going to be backed by a hard asset. But have an attorney look at it. And this is the way I look at all contracts. It's not just because it's private money. You and someone else can agree to something. Two adults can agree to something, and you can write it in a contract. But if it goes to court, and due to the legal version of the way it's worded, the judge can decide to throw it out if it seems unfair, one-sided, or someone signed under duress, or with lack of knowledge, right? You can be held to a contract, but there are times they just toss them out. So if it's looked at by an attorney who can say, this is something that would be seen as unfair, or here's a better way to word it, I would want to make sure that I do that before I actually exchanged money. So let me know how it goes. Lavita, tell us your complaint about AI. Okay. I don't watch his show. I saw a short. Sometimes I'll watch shorts. But Jon Stewart is poison. I tried watching his show one time. I tried for entertainment. I like Bill Maher. I like the other left-wing nut job. Bill Maher's a little more center now because the left moved further left than him. But I think it's in John Oliver. At least I know when they're talking, they're being told what to say. But Jon Stewart is, in my opinion, mentally challenged and drinking the Kool-Aid and is just spreading poison. But in one of his recent shorts, he was talking about AI. Now, I've dealt with, as a manager at a company or having tried a couple of businesses, right? I delivered furniture. I had an equipment hauling company. So I've tried a couple of different things, been the boss, and dealt with the anger and hatred that comes out in all of the social media comments about any corporation or any company that's making money by the sweat of the brow. Somebody else does work and they benefit. They're horrible, evil business owners. They should all just burn in hell. I totally get the mentality. But Jon Stewart's most recent one was complaining that AI is replacing jobs. Pick a freaking lane. Is it that people who own companies are horrible, evil people who benefit from the work of other people? So they get a program that replaces that person so they no longer have to benefit from the hard work of somebody. So now they're horrible, evil people because they won't employ somebody. That's my complaint about AI. Yes, AI is going to replace jobs. Trucking replaced jobs. You can fit a lot more equipment on a 53-foot semi-trailer than you can a wagon, right? These things evolve. They happen faster now. So there are things we need to do. We're not going to stop technology. No, not even the best prepared army can stop an idea whose time has come. Probably Eli Whitney or somebody said something like that. I have no idea where that came from. But yeah, there's a lot of jobs going away for AI. One of the reasons to invest in assets. Maybe the assets, like the people say, I would never own a rental. You shouldn't benefit off of housing. So I'm going to buy stocks owned by companies that own rentals. My complaint with AI is I think people just find a way to complain about anything. Late start wealth. Thank you for that question, Lavita. I appreciate it. Question. If you bought a rental but wasn't fenced except for one side, would you fence it right away before renting it out? Fence costs $1,600. So I have places that aren't fenced all the way around. I have places that are fenced all the way around, and they rent easier and they rent faster, and you get a premium because they're pet-friendly fences, which there is no definition of. So I just put that in the picture. It's literally on my last listing. It was in the picture. Pet-friendly fence. I have fenced in the back of duplexes to divide and create more privacy. So it separates the backyard of a duplex. So it was a fully fenced backyard, just not divided for the duplex. I've done that. It was about $1,700, so same price. So I guess it depends in your area, what's normal. Will it get you a rent premium? Do you intend to allow pets like I do so that it helps limit tenant turnover? Because happy tenants don't tend to leave. Is that $1,600 something that you have? You still have your reserves after that? So would I? Yes, if I had the money. No, I don't know that I would wait for it to be rented out. I don't think a fence is like a kitchen, right? I wouldn't want tenants coming to look at a place and seeing a kitchen. But if tenants did come to look at a place and go, okay, this is available as of, what is this, August, September 1st. So it's available September 1st. You'd be able to move in. This right here is where the fence is going to go. I would do that. So can you afford it without going into your reserves? Because you need reserves because there could be problems when you go to rent it. And second, I think I'd focus on getting it rented out and putting the fence in. But if I had kitchen work that was going to be done or bathroom remodeling that was going to be done, I wouldn't show the property till that work was done. And then I might lose the month's rent or whatever for that. But for a fence, I would do the rent and probably put the fence in at the same time. Manuel, I have a question. How do you pick your real estate agents? I set up auto searches with almost any agent because I don't know that I rely on my agent for much. I want professionalism. I want forms done right. I want them to work for a reputable brokerage, right? One that's well known and has a good track record in my area. So that matters to me. I have worked with an agent that was an agent for 2 weeks. I've done 5 deals with him. 5 deals with him now. Yeah, 5. And he's gotten better over time. But the first one, he worked for Keller Williams and was getting that stellar training that they do. And he had somebody over his shoulder making sure everything was done right. So I was comfortable with that. When I'm looking for my agent, I want a couple of things. One, I don't want their advice if I have to be held to it. I want their advice based on their knowledge, training, and experience. Sure, they might know something more than I do about a given subject, but they're not investing with my resources, my goals, my strategy. And so I need an agent. If I reach out to an agent and I say, I want to get this offer in really quick, I want to make it full price offer, 10,000 earnest. I'm going to have this contingency for inspection, this contingency for appraisal, and I want you to make the offer right now as fast as you can. If they came back and they said, well, it just came out today, I want to wait 2 days, viewings aren't until Wednesday, and they wouldn't do my offer quick, I would have found a new agent. If I reach out to an agent and I say, hey, I found this property, it was in the listing that you sent me, it's been on the market 100 days, 112 days, it's listed for 500,000. Hypothetically, these are weird numbers, and I want to offer 400,000, and they said, no, I wouldn't do that. Right? That's 20% off. Why don't we go 5% off? And I said, no, that's my strategy. And they said, no, I won't do it. Then I'd find a new agent. I will listen to their advice. If the one agent goes, this just came out, it's probably going to go over asking, we should probably wait, or this hasn't been on long enough to make that big of an adjustment, and then they do it, like they told me what their thoughts were, but then they did what I wanted, I'm fine with that. You can have an opinion, I don't care about that. But this is my hundreds of thousands of dollars commitments for decades that I'm committing to. That's how I choose the agent. Are they willing to do what I want, even if it goes against what their thoughts are? I don't need a yes man or yes girl or yes woman. But that's not a deal breaker either. If they just agree, then I just know this is on me to do my due diligence because they're just doing a transaction. Your agent is not your mentor. Your lender is not your mentor. Your agent's job is to close deals. Your mentor's job is to sell loan products. Your job is due diligence. Your job is knowing your market. So that's how I pick my agent. And it's kind of an ongoing thing, right? And just once you pick one, just in case there's somebody that I've met with who's picked an agent, who's a friend, who feels like they're stuck with them, you go with the agent that makes the most sense to you. Look at that. It didn't say your name. Late start wealth building journey. Me too. Great for both of us. JMC. Howdy. Michelle. Howdy. Building journey. Jared. Optimus Prime. Howdy. Dion sent you an email about your contact in Kitsap County for investment property. Could you get back to it when you get a chance? I will have to look. Yes, I will. Take a note. Let's check email. There we go. W2 times 3 equals good to go. For your level, if your income, sure, it sounds good. To then be able to retire. All right, Jared, I love the screen names in this group. Me too. And hello, howdy. Does it feel like a Friday when we watch these lives? And it depends. Are you watching it in Futureland? Because some people do watch this on Friday. Zuber says every day is Saturday. I say every night is Friday night. So to me, this is Friday night. So cheers for a Friday night. All right, Jared, you bought a lottery ticket. After you win, you will be all set. It's like the minister who kept praying to God. God, let me win the lottery so I can buy my parishioners a house. God, let me win the lottery so I can build my parishioners a bigger church. God, let me win the lottery so I can help my poor parishioners. One day, after years and years of praying, he finally hears a voice. Buy a ticket. Wealth building journey. Be careful with that. Multiple W-2s. It's like card counting at the casino. It can make you a lot of money, but if you get caught, you'll be asked to leave. That is exactly how it goes too, because I'm just good enough at the oil version of counting cards to get caught, to not caught, but be obvious. When you go $30 bet, $50 bet, $30 bet, $50 bet, $250 bet, and that hits, you're out of there. And well, it's always Friday for Dion. Exactly. There you go. Dennis, REI and life struggles. Oh yeah, I think it's 500 million, although a free 500K would be okay too. Yes. Yep. Question from Anne. And I want to say Dinthonsai. Can you talk about the process for how to get a Section 8 tenant in a rental? I've never done it before. I can absolutely do that. I find myself a chaser so I don't lose my voice. Thank you. Okay. Section 8 tenant. So it's a tenant. I have a lot of people say, how do you buy a Section 8 property? That's not a thing. You can have a rental property that could be approved for Section 8. So you advertise like normal. I use Hemlane, which puts it out on 30 platforms. You might use Apartments or Zillow, depending on the size of your portfolio. You might use a different process, but you advertise like normal, and you might put in the listing, this is available for Section 8 housing or housing vouchers accepted. Section 8 has kind of a negative connotation, housing vouchers accepted. You might not want to put it in there and just answer the question when somebody asks, yes. Or I'm willing to get it approved because you need a tenant. Once a tenant applies, that tenant has a counselor. So they're, depending on the size of your area, the way one of the counties that I work in is the alphabet is divided up to where a certain number of people go to each counselor, and my counselors handle this block of letters from the alphabet. The counselor reaches out and says, I would like to set up or you reach out to the counselor, or your tenant does, your applicant does, and says, I want to set up an inspection to make sure this place is approved. If once it's approved, it doesn't have to happen again. So this is just for the first time. So they're going to send an inspector out to look at your property. Now, depending on your housing authority, this could be 2 to 3 weeks, could be longer, could be shorter. For me, it was around 2 weeks. They're going to come, they're going to inspect for things that you should be inspecting for anyway. So don't worry about your place being inspected. They're going to check that all the doors and windows work, that you have fire alarms and smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors where you're legally required to. The one thing that they do that kind of trips people up is they verify that your bedrooms are bedrooms. And this is different in each area. Some places it's 80 square feet, sometimes it's 100 square feet. Some places it's exactly 70 square feet as long as it's 7 linear feet in 2 directions, meaning it can't be a hallway. That has to have a closet. And closets are defined by a structure that has a door. And you have to have 2 ways of egress, door and window, right? 2 ways in and out. Some places you're required a source of heat, source of cold, source of power. They'll just check all of that. And they care about bedroom count only. They don't care about garage, carport, pool, hot tub, shed, den, family room, none of the bonus stuff. It's just how many bedrooms does it have? That's what it's worth. Once they check it, they might find mistakes. So if they come in and they go, the weather stripping on this door lets light come through. This exterior light doesn't work. What else have I had that they found? Broken light switch cover behind the refrigerator, or missing cover behind the refrigerator, something that they just look for and they find. They're going to sometimes say, these are the things you need to fix. Once you fix them, reach out. We'll set up another time to come out. When they do that, ask if they're willing to accept a video sent through email. They might be happy because it saves them another appointment. This will work for you because it speeds up you not having to wait for another appointment. It literally solves the problem as soon as you rectify the errors. Once that's approved, you sign a lease with the tenant saying this is their move-in date. Tenants are usually responsible for deposit. So either the tenant has it or the tenant finds a resource outside of the housing authority to cover the deposit. This can be the local church, the local rental assistant program, whatever it is in their area. The maybe the VFW, American Legion, depending on the person you're dealing with. Housing authority generally doesn't pay deposit. And then you have the lease with the tenant, they pay the deposit. The housing authority signs a contract with you. This is not a lease, this is the contract. And it states this tenant in this house, this is how much the housing authority will pay. This is the responsibility of the tenant. You need to collect the money from the tenant for the deposit and their amount of the rent before you let them move in. I usually recommend, cashier's check, cash, uh, gold, anything that can't just be taken back. I have accepted Zelle for deposits. I have accepted, I don't know if I've done Venmo or something, but I've taken Zelle. The smaller your portfolio, the less likely I would be to do that. I've never had an issue with it, but it could be an issue. And is it a deal breaker for me if a tenant F's me over and doesn't pay and has to go through an eviction? No, but when your portfolio is smaller, I'd want to get as much real currency that can't be taken back before I let a tenant move in. Then you have that contract with the housing authority and you have the lease with the tenant. Now, some counties, so know your area, and you might not have a housing authority. You might have a nonprofit that handles the voucher program. So you have to do some Google search and figure out what is the situation in your area. What am I missing? Screen your Section 8 tenants exactly like you do. For me, credit score is exactly the same. Eviction history is exactly the same. If you use a multiplier of their income, gets kind of fuzzy. I don't use income for anybody. So if you did it for Section 8, what portion of the rent are they required for? And that's your multiplier, not based on the entire rent. It's based on what their requirement is. For the people that have done this before, let me know in the comments if I missed something. I tried to be as thorough as I could without any research, just having done it a handful of times. The TAM bomb, waiting for $1 billion. There you go. Eddie B Trucking, update. Offer on a house. Text from somebody I thought we were good. Update on our house and ADU is accepted. I then found water damage on the roof decking and floor joists, so I backed out because numbers no longer worked. Submitted an offer on a duplex today. What number would work for the place with the damage that would have the seller fix it, the seller do a concession for the amount of the repairs, or a price reduction to make it make sense? Probably not going to do it, but something to consider. Let me know how the duplex goes. Good job. Backing out is good. I remember I've only really backed out of two now. One, because of something similar. First, it came in as a low appraisal, so yay, but it was too low to really negotiate with. And second, they found water damage that had messed up all the joists. Not all the joists, a significant number of joists, and it was going to be more than I wanted to deal with, and they wouldn't adjust the price. So I backed out. The other one was because I made multiple offers. Now I've done multiple offers. I know dozens of times. I don't know that it's hit 100 yet, but it's dozens and dozens of times where I have 2 or 3 offers out at the same time. One time in 10 years, both of them got accepted. And I was only in a position to take one. Now, my agent knew this, didn't create much extra work for them. And as soon as I found out, I backed out of the one. It caused no one's reputation got damaged. Eddie, I'm just trying to put the work to number 1 on the books. There you go. And good job not getting rushed in a hurry and taking a bad deal. Late start wealth. Don't forget that you can also look for appreciation in a red state within a blue county or municipality. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I think so. There's appreciation in both, right? You're more likely to get it in a blue state, but you're also dealing with the headaches of more tenant-friendly laws. So I was throwing in details without giving like a whole dissertation on why I choose to invest where I do. Because there are many qualities of Washington State that I love, and there are many legal aspects that I don't. Someday, I was talking with my brother about this the other day, we may sell everything and just literally take the millions and go live on it. And yeah, who knows? Neither one of our goal is to create generational wealth. Wombat Striker, a financial firefighter. Aloha. Howdy. Wombat Striker, I found out the VA loan can work for small farms. Yes. Can you and your brother talk about field farm rental in your video? I know he has rural land. Not sure if he makes ag income there also, though. No, he doesn't. Um, no, there's no way to put that in a video without looking horrible. Never date a horse girl, but having dated some horse girls, there is very serious money to be made in housing horses for people who want horses but don't have the lifestyle to have a house with horses on it. So yeah, we could probably do a video on that. I don't know that we would have the experience. Let me do some research and find somebody who's done that to maybe make some videos on how farm stuff works. Because I know he would say we're farmers. We always had animals, but we didn't own the property and we didn't rent it. We literally lived there until the owners found out, and then we'd moved. So we're not a good example. Yeah. So Wombat Struck, if somebody knows somebody who's done farm investing, let me know. Dennis, question. Is there any other method you would consider using to replace a property management for your out-of-state investing, or is it just not worth it? Would just shopping around for PMs be a better course of action? Yeah, so there is another route that I would take that I've considered, and it's almost like having a PM, and you'd have to know your local laws. But are there investors who invest where you have your rentals that you can develop a relationship with, that they can make money letting you use their systems, their handyman, their contractors, their plumbers, their electricians for a set amount of money? That's what I would do. So I'm reverse engineering this. I invested locally where I live, and then I am traveling now that I'm retired, don't have a W-2 because I don't have to live here. I don't need a property manager because I have so many systems in place. And one thing I'm doing is I'm developing relationships with people like Curtis or Michelle or Jared. I mean, Jared's a bit further away, but these are investors who are investing in something like I'm doing. I'm available to help. I've been to Josh and Mary's, I've been to Curtis's, I've been to Michelle's, I've gone to their house. How would we do this? How can we fix this? What can we do? And it's not like, so I can call you in the future and I will ask you for a favor and you can't refuse, but it's to build relationships with other investors so we have a network of each other. And I'm not saying that Curtis is going to come and, do a lease signing for me, but he's going to know. Like, I just recently found a great contractor and he did some work for me, really good price. He was available, he was prompt, he was good with the tenants. So I sent his information to several local people. When they use him, my network gets stronger, right? The contractor, it now associates me with extra work. All of these are things that you can be doing at a distance as well. If you have a good contractor there, but you know investors in that area, have you recommended them? Have you got your contractor more work, even though it's in another state? That's what I would do before switching PMs or possibly having a PM. If you just couldn't find a PM that would work, you might change 2 or 3 times and then find one that works. Sip lifestyle to Argentina. There you go. I will have to check it out. What do I know about Argentina? Not much. No. All right, Jared, just tell people you're from Canada. There we go. Oculus. There you go. Thank you, BuzzTune, for putting that in there. Yeah, BuzzTune, we have the September, every Tuesday after the live stream through the entire month of September is its course calls. Members only will be Saturday or Sunday for September, 2 of them. Just so you are aware, everybody's in the course. It'll be every Tuesday. And then if there's people who just can't make Tuesdays, let me know. We can do it another day of the week too. But it's a month of course calls. So everybody who's in the course has access to this workshop. Anybody who gets signed up for the course between now and then has access to this workshop as well. And then my chat moved, which is great. That means that there are chats and questions coming. Moved a lot. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. 4K to live, 16K to retire. That's what it was for me. Yeah. Probably could have gone at 12K and been comfortable. So, if I really hated my job, I might have then worked part-time until it hit 16 or something, but loving my job past 16. And that was when I retired. And then it's grown since then. We had a couple things that helped, right? So those things, I'm going to keep your eye open for things in the future that will help too. There could be black swans that make the binder strategy across the board work again. Oculus. The real reason Dion didn't retire in 2018, spend time for 2022 rolling over effigies of LLCs in the parking lot with his big rigs. Exactly. It hasn't come out yet, but I did a recent video with Coach Carson because he had an attorney on his channel talking about, they said pros and cons of LLC, but it was pros and there might be some cons. So we did a video of the cons. It should come out on his channel soon. Michelle, like one tenant having to break the lease, which I knew had a roof, better change event, and 2 months from now, I will probably want another vacancy. We got this. Sometimes the vacancies are the best things to happen. I finally encourage a young couple to buy a house and move out. I lose a good tenant. It's terrible, right? But they get on the property letter. I help make their life better. I do some repairs. I put in blinds. What else was there? So I swapped out all the blinds, swapped out the electric lights. The other electric was good. Is there anything else at that one? The carpet stretched because there's a couple places um, where if you have stairs, I have carpet. And then there was two landings. I probably could have done that myself, but it kept the carpet guy working when he needed money. And so he'll be available the next time I need him, and I'm not around to do it. Uh, but then the rent went up significantly. So am I happy they bought a house? Yes. Am I happy I lost tenants? Not really. Am I happy I have new tenants? I had a lot more money. I don't know if you know this or not, but money doesn't suck. Not having enough does sometimes. All right, Jared. Unfortunately, $6,000 a month. I have a wife and kids. So it looks like a target of 24. So yeah, right. The more you need, the smaller the multiplier. So if you need 6, 20, I think I'd be comfortable at 20. Although, Jared, with your story, with your ability to quit your job and then acquire cash flowing assets doing this rent by the room, and then you go back to work to make it easier to acquire the next loans, do you need the multiplier before you quit and continue to do what you work? Because now you're going to have eventually rental income on 2 years of tax returns. So continuing to grow. Every situation is unique, and we should probably do it like a totally separate story on that. Eddie, I can't wait to hit the milestone of being able to save 100% of W2. I've made a couple of videos. They don't get that many views. So maybe I'm just not doing the right thumbnail and title. But Graham Stephan, Dave Ramsey, a lot of these bigger, influencers, whatever they're called, talk about a 15% savings rate, right? Take 15%. This is saved for retirement. This is saved for investing, blah, blah, blah. I think while you're working, your goal should be be able to get to a 100% savings rate. If you can't save 100% of what you're making, then you need that job. So you're not financially free. Oh, yeah, I didn't start at 100%. It started at like 2%. And then overtime was saved, and then side hustle was saved. It slowly grew to 100%. It probably passed 100% before 2018, but that's when I sat down and was like, okay, I'm going to start tracking this is how much I make from my W2. And it started to become significant. So it was a little more disciplined, resisted going, I can go buy the $300,000 boat and it's not even going to affect my finances. Since I didn't, I was able to pay cash for a duplex. That helped, but 18 is when I started tracking it. SIP lifestyle, I want to have the same issue of figuring out how to spend money. And it sounds like a joke. It sounds like I'm being facetious. It sounds like I'm being maybe mean because when you don't have enough money is the only thing. And once you have enough, it's just a thing, right? I've said that several times. It's a quote from the basketball player. I totally get it's not my words, it's his. But those habits, right? The people who are like, I wish I had enough money, but are just wishing and they're not actually setting aside money to invest, learning their asset class, choosing an asset class, and actually taking action, they will never have to worry about learning how to spend money because they're not learning how to save it. They know how to spend it. I've had an ex that I have called them storgasms. Needed those all the time. All right, Jared, sell your kids, easy fix. There you go. I tried gypsies, brought them back every time. My family, being travelers, really gets offended by being called gypsies, but thankfully, they've moved on. There's my dad joke for today, Dave. All right, Jared, I would have to pay to sell them. There you go. No alligator children. I totally agree. See, hot mic touche. Miss a mic statement. REI Jared. I used to hear about old people that died with millions living in a shack. I wondered how that happened. Now I know they didn't know how to shift gears after saving and investing all those years. I totally agree. Yeah. Julie, I'm looking cutesy and demure today. When I woke up this morning, I think I rolled the Rolodex of thesaurus words, and cutesy and demure was my target. Thank you. Oh man, if my brother's watching this, I'm never gonna hear the end of it. Rob, yeah, patio story Thursday. No patio story. See, you can talk about Thailand, you can talk about Chiang Mai, right? Elephants, tigers. There's no bears that I saw. Zip lining. You could talk about Koh Tao, scuba diving, but what happens in Pattaya stays on YouTube. REI Jarrett, 96 watching and only 37 likes. Angels are in desperate need. Yes, every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings. Brought to you by your friendly neighborhood atheist. Freedom Works. Please vote for less taxes and less government in Dion's bedroom, please, and thank you. Yes, that is good correction there, because that's my problem. So there's insanity on both sides. Don't benefit from the working class, but don't get AI so the working class doesn't have the jobs that you were benefiting from. Okay, that's the insanity on the left. And there are two genders. You can hate me all you want. I've got friends that are they, thems, and I'll call them that because they can pretend to be whatever they want to be. They can't make me pretend to be what they want to be. It's like me requiring that you use my adjectives. I'm tall, handsome, and rich. If you don't use those words, I can get you fired. That's the level of insanity there. But then on the right, it's first, I'm going to piss off a lot of people because there's no other way to say this. Get your sky daddy out of my religion, and out of the girl's right to choose. I understand. Yes, there's a certain point after so many months, sure, but no, the control in the bedroom, and people can marry whoever they want. So Republicans, I'm going to use the R word, the other one. If you don't like it, words offend you. Thank your parents for raising a wuss. Republicans are retarded. Get that government out of your bedroom, and you'd get more votes. And on the left, the five major cities with the most gun violence have the strictest gun laws. I can't find a side that makes sense. Okay, no more politics. Could we get a Dion talk on game theory and real estate example? Yes, but not without research. That's one I would want to nail because I game theory a lot of things and I want to do that with research, especially thinking of the game theory of if I need to talk for an hour on one subject, I need 10 minutes to prepare. If you want me to talk for 10 minutes on a subject that I haven't researched yet, I need a week to prepare. So game theory and real estate. Because we've game theoried a lot of things, especially on the Three Amigos. That's how we solve a lot of things. Game theory, yeah, that's going to spin into a whole subsection of videos here. Make sure I'm not missing any super chats. I got the private money one. Yep. Give yourself a raise. Love the name. Hey, howdy down. Howdy, everybody. Rich Hilarious. Will you ever get into new construction for rentals? No. The less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt he is to look foolish in retrospect. So I did make one. I said no. Let me think it through. Let me game theory it. If you ever get into new construction for rentals, I don't like dealing with the contractors, the permit process, and they're not profitable for 10 to 15 years. So you've got a lot of reasons there why it doesn't fit my investing model. I'm about to close on a 7-bedroom, 4-bath rent by the room. That's a strategy where it works. I don't do that strategy. That's why it doesn't fit my model. House hack that comes with an extra lot. So I plan on building a similar house and rent by room. I recommend checking out Todd Baldwin, spelled like Alec Baldwin. He doesn't shoot anybody in the face. Todd Baldwin lives in Seattle, buys many bedrooms with as many bathrooms and does rent by the room, has some great strategies. He stopped making YouTube content because he said some of the things I said in this video earlier. Did you know if you say anything against the left, they cancel your YouTube channel? No kidding. Go to Todd Baldwin and look at his videos from about a year before he shut his channel down. 60 to 65,000 views per video. He made one video on socialism, and now he gets 200 or 300, not K, just 100 views per video by the people who searched his name and had to find it. So I don't care if my channel gets canceled. I'm not going to change who I am. You're going to get the unfiltered truth. And sometimes it's late in the video because the water that makes my eyes water, but this is who I am. Kind of like Thursday. I was not kidding. My brother's going to want to punch me because I'm going to explain the sad, sad truth of early retirement using him as an example. So I think it's a great strategy. I think it fits your method better. I think you have some research to do. I don't know if it's your first one, like if you're saying, because on a 7-bedroom and by the room house hack sounds first, but doesn't clearly state that. So could be a solid strategy. And if it fits your goals, awesome. But no, I don't think it's for me. Oculus, thank you for the question. For your 2-3 and 1-3 payment plan, I think that might work for a tenant I'll inherit if I close. Do you charge late fees for? But no, once it's in the lease and that's how it's late, this is due on this date. Here's your grace period. It's late on this day. Now it's $20 a day if this isn't paid. So if they don't pay the first 2/3 and then they don't pay the third, there's a grace period for each one. Then the late fees, and I do $20 a day, it kicks in. So that's a great question, but it's written in the lease that this is when it's due. Here's the grace period for each one, and then the late fees would kick in. Michelle, of course, today is our favorite day. I spent a couple hours at the end of the day. There you go. My super favorite day. Me too. This is how I know what day of the week it is. It's funny. BiggerPockets or somebody will reach out and they'll say, hey, we want to do an interview like tomorrow on buying properties with tenants in place because that's my preferred method. And I'll go, sure, absolutely. Any day but Tuesday. And Tuesday's not even like booked. It's just 4 to like 7 on Tuesday is booked. But I keep them clear because on Tuesdays, I want to make sure that when I show up for the intro, just in case it was a subject I did need to research and have my data on, I had time to do it. And that I had a good nap before the live stream so that I can show up cute and what was submissive? What did Julie say? SIP lifestyle. When I go to the DMV, I see why AI will take over. I use the DMV as a reference for a lot of things. It's one of the only places on the planet that they have to put up placards that says it's a felony to threaten us because their work standard is so bad, you're going to want to threaten them. And that's for my friends on the left who think the government can do anything like supply housing. If you know what it's like to get your license done, is that how you want to have to get a bed? Back now. Hope I didn't miss much. Gerbil speed time. Nice, thanks. Ain't that truth? Damiola. Hi, Dion. Would you buy a fourplex or land and build a duplex or triplex? I'd buy. I don't like to build. I did a burr. I don't like the permit process on that. I don't ever plan on building. So that's not, like I said, it's a declarative statement. I'm not a builder and I don't want to be. I like to buy I like to buy with existing tenants. That's what the interview tomorrow is for. So that's my answer. Pretty simple. That doesn't mean it's the right choice for you. Maybe you're in the situation where you know good contractors, or you're in an area where the municipality has good streamlined the process for getting plans approved, and the permit process is going to be not a problem. And maybe new rents out better than old there. That's not my case in anything that I just said. So, but when you ask my opinion, I can relate it to what I'm doing. I don't know your municipality, goals, timeline, resources, all of that. But that I'm giving you here's what I would consider to make the decision thoughts. Cash flow is free. It totally is. That's why the title of the video, I got another ad, is how to live on cash flow. I think that's what the video was titled. How to live off cash flow. Put it on cash flow? Is it on or off cash flow? Because all my properties are bought off the MLS, which means they're from the MLS. English is stupid. Elizabeth R. What will determine if a rental will be successful? What should I look for when analyzing the property and running the numbers? That is a great question. Thank you, Elizabeth. If you look on the YouTube University platform, you are going to find mostly math. And it's such a small part of the equation. In my members only live streams, we do this twice a month, but the members only, we get together and we analyze deals. My deals are your deals. I prefer your deals because I'm not hunting to buy right now, and I'm afraid I'll find a good deal. But we look at the deal. We spend about 30 to 45 minutes analyzing the deal. And that 30 to 45 minutes represents about 90 seconds. But it takes 30 to 45 minutes to break down the nuance. This is how you analyze a deal. Math in that whole conversation takes probably 3 minutes, maybe 5, if it's confusing and the app isn't working like it's supposed to for the CDS rental calculator app. And I did find the problem. If you're here, I don't see you in the chat though. When we had the app not working, it's because the repairs aren't amortized and don't have interest. That's why it didn't affect cash on cash. Figured it out afterwards. So we look at math a little bit, right? You've studied your market to figure out what an area average good return is. Most properties are going to lose money. Some will make money. The ones that make money, you want to try to beat that so you're protecting yourself from getting a bad deal. Is it in the market you want to invest? Do you know the market well enough? Do you have trusted boots on the ground, right? So once you've picked your market, you never think about it again. Now, looking at your market, you know the areas that you'll avoid. I know 301 T Street in Tumwater, half-a-mile radius. McKinley Avenue in Tacoma, 3 blocks each side, about a 2-mile stretch. I won't own in either one of those. Pretty much no other area in Pierce or Thurston counties are bad enough for me to avoid. I'm learning Kitsap, my newest area market that I'm investing in, where I'm house hacking now. So you want to know your market that well. You can rattle off, I won't own here or here. So you can look at the map and go, yeah, that's kind of close. Let me actually go by and check and see if it's in the right area. So the market that you've picked, are there enough economic drivers, right? Sources of tenants. Is there, and these are things like a base, a port, college, hospital, Boeing, Amazon, large population, 3 or 4 of any one of those. So the population is just one. It could be 3 or 4 of the other things. An example is I own a duplex in McKenna, Washington, which has less than 500 people. So population isn't a requirement. Economic drivers is. Population can be one of them. Then it's what physical aspects of the property itself that are going to help limit tenant turnover. So if you're going short-term, mid-term, long-term, storage, RV, pads, whatever strategy you're using, does the property meet it? An example is the wealth building journey wanted to do rent by the room. We were looking at several places together. Parking was almost always the issue. If you're going to do rent by the room, you need parking for each room, sometimes more parking than there are a number of rooms. And that was kind of the barrier in a lot of the cases. So physical aspects of the property. I like washer dryer hookups in each unit. I don't like over under. I only own one over under property. I like side by side, so less noise complaints. Does single family work better, or house with ADU or small multifamily in your area? Which one works best for your market and your strategy? Is it next to a noisy thing that's going to bother the tenants? A landing strip, a train, a club, anything that can cause problems with the tenants? What's the safety level of the area? And I don't generally look at Crime Stop or any of those. We'll check them out once in a while, but I'll generally go to Street View and look around for bars on the windows. Are the cops allowed to go to the area by themselves or even in a pair? There are places where they can't go in a pair. They've got to literally do almost a code zebra saying, hey, we're all going to be staging here because somebody's going to serve a warrant at 301 T Street. So safety is kind of a factor. Physical aspects of the property, physical aspects of the area. All of those contribute to it. But you see how many things I rattled off after math? But if you look on YouTube University, what do you see? How to run the numbers. I've had to make several videos on how to run the numbers. How I run the numbers on cash flow, how I run the numbers on yield, how I run the numbers on a house hack. Those all matter. Those are things. And once you learn them, it takes this much time to think, is this property worth pursuing? So know if it's going to be successful. Yes, math is a factor, but it's a tiny factor when compared to all of the things we're going to consider. That wasn't even a comprehensive list, but the more you comment, the more questions you get, you're going to get like, what do you prefer? Septic, sewer. What do you prefer? Well, city water. Why do you not own anything in an HOA and have it as your disqualifier? Why don't you want to buy a foreclosure or a short sale? Like, these are all things that I'll talk about in all these videos. And the more you watch, these 4 words can help make you a better investor, parent, friend, partner, whatever. Confidence comes from competence. Running the numbers on a deal is a skill. Once you become confident at your ability to run the numbers, which I suggest finding an investor in your area that you're going to invest, asking them if you can run the numbers on their deals to see how close you come to learn the skill. Once you do that, you'll have the confidence to then look at the rest of the properties to see if it will work as a good rental. Once you're confident once you're competent at knowing, are these physical aspects good or bad? Is this in a good or bad area? Once you're competent at knowing that, you'll be confident to make offers. Once you're competent at negotiating by reading books like Never Split the Difference or educating yourself on NLP like we do in the course, getting down language to understand your, that's very loud. Never interrupt somebody when they're working. They're working. That's what I mean. I'm not in any way going to go interrupt them. Y'all are just going to have to deal with somebody making noise. So that's a list of things I would look for when figuring out if your rental is going to be a good deal or not. I would run it by somebody that you trust, because remember, soft eyes. Don't fall in love with the deal. You don't live there. Your tenants are going to. Even if it's a house hack, you're only going to live there for a year. Will this work as a rental? I've lived in house hacks I didn't want to live in. I now live in a house hack specifically because it's where I wanted to live. It's got the aspects of what I wanted to do. And it's a house hack on purpose because I want to be able to travel for months in another country and have somebody on my property. That was a good question. PE turned RE. Would roommate, oh, a chat moved. I was reading it. PE turned RE. Let me know if that noise is super annoying. I don't know if I can mute it while I'm looking for the question. And of course, I'm not finding it. I had to do something with roommates and criteria. Would roommate selection criteria be the same as normal tenants? No. There's actually a different law that kicks in, and PTO for life. They actually referenced it several times. Okay, thanks, Jared. You guys can't hear it. That's crazy. They're like weed eating my door, it seems like. Thanks. There's a law that kicks in when you're renting spaces where you live, where I think it's verified, Google it, where you're allowed to discriminate. I think if you were, say, a female, you don't have to rent to men. If you have kids, you don't have to rent to us. You could be more selective on the roommate selection. I was more selective on the roommate selection. Doesn't mean it was better. I was just more selective. Did I unmute myself? Yeah, I've done that before too. Talk for 10 minutes and there's like everybody saying, hey, I can't hear you. There we go. Daniel, howdy. Do you use any software to automate your rent collection? Further criteria to your self-proclaimed laziness. Not to automate it, because I have 3 criteria for rent. First, it makes it easy on the tenant. My criteria is that it's easy on the tenant. So that's above my laziness factor. Second is I want it to leave a paper trail. And third is I want it to save me a trip to the bank. So it takes me about 30 minutes a month to verify that my rents were paid. Right? So it's broken up into 5-minute sections or 3-minute sections going, oh, that Zelle payment came through for a text, or that Venmo payment, or that Apple Cash App. What else is there? I have tenants who pay in cash, send an email as a receipt. I have tenants who write 6 months worth of checks, and then I just deposit them on the day of the month that it's due every time. So I've made it easy on the tenants for what works for them. I use Hemlane, which does have a rent collection thing, but it's only about 4 of my units that are on there. It's because I don't switch tenants over. It's when I have a turnover, the new tenant comes through on Hemlane. So no, not any software. If I had 50 or plus more, my goal was to have 50, I would have systems in place to have it easier. But here's this thing, we're human, right? That's actually a part of this. When you buy a rental and you took all of the time to save the down payment, to have enough money to save for closing costs, to have money for those repairs, to have money for the reserves that the lenders are going to want. You've worked for time to save, not spend your money, to save it up. This is the part where everybody's like, oh, landlords just make money off of other people's work. No, you did all the work in the front to make money later. So you've done all this, and then you learn your market, You find deals, right? You go through the question that we just had on how do you even know if it's a good deal. You learn the math, you learn the area, you make the offers, you negotiate, you close on the property. You've done all of this, and this is like years, a couple of years, and minimum 2 years usually before. Like, okay, I think I should own a rental. And you might be like Marcus Shiro, the financial firefighter, that goes, "Oh, I'll just empty out all my retirement accounts and buy them all now, and then figure it out." That's possible. You could do that. How'd that go, Mark? He's doing great now, but there was a moment of stress for about a year in the middle of there. Uh, Completely threw off the Emperor's group there. You've done all this work. You close on the property. All the money is going out. You've paid agent fees, title, inspection, appraisal. Your money is going into your savings. It's just constantly going up. Maybe you got rehab when you close because you don't do like I do. You buy places that need work. So you're paying contractors. And then that first rent check comes. Like money that you didn't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time because you've done the work to get to the point where you get the rent check. Take yourself through that emotional roller coaster of everything it took to get there to you now. Zelle, whatever, Cash App, the money comes to you, deposit a check. There is more money in your account today just because you woke up because of the couple of years of work that it took to get to the point to do all the work to get that. It's like you can breathe more. Really, it's like this is the first validation that, wait a minute, all of this might have been for something. Like I'm benefiting from this. Oh, yeah, you invested, possibly, depending on if it's a house hack, time and energy and effort for a long time, where you're going to live, maybe tens of thousands of dollars if you're purchasing just an investment property to get a rent check that also has a mortgage coming out of it, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. You're also going to set aside money for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So it's not like you get a $2,000 rent check, you're $2,000 richer. You get a $2,000 rent check, you're maybe $400 or $500 richer. But it's your money that came in and you didn't have to work for it. And it starts where you'll play mental game. Okay, so I made $400. There's 31 days. Hey Siri, what's 400 divided by 31?
400 divided by 31 is approximately 12.9032.
I made over $12 today without getting out of bed. How cool is that? And then you get to the point where you have all of these rentals. So you think that's exciting, but then the next month you get another one. No, that's not less exciting. You do this for 12 years and you have your rent checks come in and all your expenses go out. You have like 8,000 something in mortgages go out. You have got principal, interest, taxes, insurance. What did I spend this month? Like $2,500. I had some plumbing issues and some other stuff that came up that I didn't go fix. People fixed. I had a bunch of stuff done. But about $600, no kidding, it's like 604 something dollars today that I didn't have yesterday because I did a decade's worth of work. I enjoy opening up the Cash App and going, oh, that I a friend sitting next to me the other day. I saw a Venmo notification, but I didn't see what it was. I was like, oh, hey, look, oh, $4,200 shows up because two tenants there. Actually, it's 2/3 and a tenant there that showed up that wasn't there. $600 a day because I did a decade's worth of work. I don't know. I don't think I'm lazy to deny myself that mostly first week of the month where it goes rent, rent, mortgage, rent, rent, mortgage, rent, 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 mortgage, right? It's just like pays vertical pong in your bank account. Sorry for the overshare there. JMS, I'm closing on a property with a tenant already in place. My preferred method, I'm going to do the binder strategy. She's currently paying $775 a month. Section 8 is $1110. What would you settle for? First, okay, so it's Section 8. Now she's at 775. I don't want to make the logic leap that she's Section 8. So Section 8 would pay 1110 in your area. I would do a rent study. It'd take me about 2 weeks at least to study whatever Section 8 is paying. In some areas, it's more than area average, and in some areas, it's less than area average. I have not found one yet where like that sets the average. So figure out if the people around there for the same type of rental pay more or less. It sounds like you're buying the exact type of property that I like to buy. Tenants in place, rents are low. That's why the landlord sold. They weren't making any money, but they didn't want to raise the rent to lose a good tenant. So instead, they lost a good asset. And now you have a good asset. I don't do the binder strategy right away. I know it's going to cost you a couple $100 a month, but for September and October, I would be at 775. So I would just mentally lock that in. That's going to be there. Tenant doesn't know that yet, but you do. So I'd go in those first 2 months and I'm going to vet the tenant. You didn't get to run their credit, their work history, their eviction status, and it's really bad form right now. If you told them, I need a credit report from you, you're going to make a tenant spend more money to live in a house they already live in. That's unprofessional word coming up. That's a douchebag move. So I've never done that. Why do we run their credit and check their eviction history? We want to know if they're good tenants. And what do good tenants do? Pay their rent on time. You don't get noise complaints, and they don't call you for super trivial things. So for that 2 month period, that's when I figure out if that happens. This also gives you a chance as you close on this property to do some upgrades. What I do every time, sometimes there's unique things to the situation, but these 3 things tell me if there is or not. First, coded locks, especially in a place where people are paying $1,100 a month for rent. They're probably used to having keys. So when you put in coded locks and they don't have keys, that's a perk. Updates the place. Motion sensor LED exterior lights. Links to the locks and the lights are in the description below. I will actually ask the tenant, hey, if you own this place, what would you fix? It's never been something like, well, I'd add a bedroom, I'd pave the driveway. It's, I would like a screen door so I could leave it open in the summer, or my ceiling fan squeaks, right? These are things that you can easily fix. A couple $100 makes the tenant happy. So now the tenant knows you're going to take care of the place. You know if it's a tenant you want to keep because maybe you don't want to. Sometimes, like Michelle, in a couple months, the best thing is if the tenant goes away. So now you do the binder strategy, and all this is in the course, which you can go to DionTalk.com. There's a full free course there on the binder. So don't charge a penny for that because this helps the landlord and the tenant. So it cost me 10 grand to put together, $400 a month to keep up, and I ain't charging anybody a penny for the binder course because I want to help people with that. I don't know how long that'll go. I don't know that I'll ever start charging for it. I'll probably just turn the course off and not pay the fees. We'll see. I don't know. So I'm not trying to do this to make money. I'm not trying to monetize this. I'm not trying to lose money, but I just, no, it's weird. Money's weird. When you have enough, it's just a thing. But that doesn't mean you waste it. Because then you don't have any for hookers and blow. They're at 775, Section 8's 1110. So we're going to assume, right? When you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you, an assumption, that rents are 1,100. They could be 13. They could be 1,000. We're going to assume 11 because you gave them, that's the only data that I have right now. But do a rent study. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, apartments.com, and Zillow. Watch rents for 2 weeks. See what properties are on there, how long they stay, if they get a drop, if they go away and come back significantly higher because they got too much demand. Like you can only do that over a period of time. You can't take a snapshot. Even Rentometer doesn't do a snapshot. But if it's 775 and it's 1110, so if the tenant moved out and you fix the place up, the estimated rent that you would get is 1,100. You would lose the month that the tenant moved out. You would have the expense of the repairs and upgrades and updates that you'd have to do to make it rent ready for the next tenant to move in. Then you'd have the cost of advertising. If you have a property manager, it's going to take a month's worth of rent or half a month's worth of rent. If you do it, it's going to take some of your time. So you have this expense to get 1,100. So I don't expect the tenant, the binder strategy, I don't expect it to go to 1,100 because that's what happened if you did all the work, lost the month, screened and placed a tenant, shiny new tenant, new area average rents. That's probably mathematically the best thing to happen. But I don't want to displace a tenant. I invested while working full-time and raising 3 young kids, so I didn't want to do that either. I didn't want to have the tenant turnover. I didn't want to have to manage the repairs and maintenance. And well, the maintenance is there, but the repairs and updates to do a new rental, I didn't want to have to do that. So what would I be willing to accept? 775 sounds too low. Don't think I would do it if area average was 1,100. So if I talk to the tenant, and they will usually go above splitting the difference. So let's look at the math here. We have 775 and 1110. So in the middle of that is about between 900 and 950. So on the low end, I would accept 950. If the tenant suggested over 1,000, anything over 1,000, I would bring it down to 1,000. I wouldn't take over 1,000 if area average rents were 1,100, and I was confident in my rent study. Michelle's done this. She had a tenant recommend an amount. She brought it down. My friend Dan did this. I've done this where a tenant recommends an amount and you bring it down. Your tenant is a lot happier when they realize I suggested an amount and then you went a little lower. Happy tenants don't trash your place and happy tenants don't leave, right? Try to keep your tenants happy. This is very important. This makes your life easier. I don't care what the haters online say. They can say all landlords suck. They can say it's just terrible. But my tenants' opinions of me, because of the binder strategy, because of actually fixing things, that matters to me because it has an impact on my life. The haters online, they just make me cry myself to sleep on my lumpy mattress full of cash. But my tenants fill the mattress. So what would the lowest I would take? Lowest I don't know, I might go down to 900, maybe 890 or something, but I wouldn't go any lower than that. I'd split the difference. I wouldn't get too close to the 1100. And that's because it's just going to, and now, if you go in there and the tenant's like, well, yeah, the floor is trashed. You got to put in new LVP. Obviously, this carpet's 12 years old, has never been changed, and you have a big expense right away. You might want the tenant to leave to get area average rents after how much the flooring is going to cost. Because 1,000 square feet at $2 a square foot for material, $2 a square foot for install, you're, thousands of dollars to solve that problem. And those were loose numbers. Your area might be higher, might be a little lower. And if you shop around, I'm sure you can get your materials a little less than that. And thank you. Is it Marlon or Marion? Marlon. Señor Dion, hola from Los Angeles. Hola, ¿cómo está usted? Muy mal. Schelmeyer. I would love to meet someone that does farm investing. I think, yeah. On Matt Stryker, also really don't want to deal with horse people, but I definitely work with farmers and ranchers, only some offense intended if that applies to anyone here. Yes. That's like the joke from Yellowstone. Doctor says, sorry, man, you're going to die. But the good news is you can date a horse girl, and that week is going to feel like it lasts forever. Dividend Dave. Michelle, let us look into investing in farming. We can definitely plant some ideas. I see what you did there. That was kind of low-hanging fruit, though. Justin, howdy. Have you ever looked into pilot crash pads? They don't just rent by room, they rent by bed, usually up to 3 beds in a room. So Airbnb by the room is a thing out here where I'm at in Port Orchard. There's a ton of Airbnb that it just literally says Mark, rent with Susan, rent with whatever. It's just someone's name. They're renting out a room. So there's a lot of house hackers that do Airbnb by the room. So I've not looked into it. I don't do short term. I don't do midterm. Both of those are too much work for me. I don't care how much money they make. I found financial freedom with long-term tenants that I talk to once every couple of years. And that's too much. But it is a good strategy. And if it fits your goals, that is probably a really good way to go. Dennis, my life on Tuesday nights is only real estate related content. Nice. Ironically, me too. Deconstructing dreams, a financial journey. So before I read what you said there, I apologize for all the dad jokes. It's very hard to present. I mean, think of how dry the information is on you buy a property, you rent it out for more than it cost you. That's real estate. There's a lot of details that go into it, but that's real estate. I gotta be myself, and I've got to say stupid jokes that make people roll their eyes. I would love if my kids were forced to watch this one time just to see how much of a dork I actually am on video too, because it's not just to them. Deconstructing dreams, a financial journey. Hey guys, hope you're having a great week. I hope they are too. Michelle, never disappointed with Dave's dad jokes. Not sure where you come up with so many so quick. Laura Semeniago. Howdy, Laura. Dion, what are your thoughts about paying a handyman a retainer like you do with your lawyer? I met him through my PM. I had done work directly with him, and I like work directly with him. I've done that. I've done, hey, Jeremy, I'm going to be in Thailand. Or the last one was, I'm going to be in Portugal for 2 months. Here's $500. This is not a retainer. This is just $500. You're going to answer your phone for 2 months while I'm gone. That's what I paid, $500 for 2 months. They're going to answer the phone. And he only handled like half the problems while I was gone, but he was more likely to answer because I didn't timeline. I don't know what time I was going to be getting a hold of him. So it's kind of like a retainer, but hey, I'm traveling and I need you to be available. Whenever I work my handyman more than a retainer, I do tips. Like I just hired a new guy and he doesn't know this yet. He's done most of the work. He's gotten half in materials and he's about to get the rest. The rest is going to come with a big tip. And then he'd be like, oh, how do I work for this guy more? That's where that comes from. So that's my type of retainer. If you talk to the handyman and they're comfortable with it, yeah, I think a retainer would be good. Especially if you have a handyman where you go, because most of mine go, they have a $500 threshold. Anything below 500, that's justifiable where they can take a before, during, and after photo, and I can actually show you some. I sent some to Frank the other day. This is, it'll work this way. That's a before. That's they just smooched it with stuff to try to stop a leak. And then they sent me the after, which doesn't show up really good on phone there. And that was $250 in a ceiling at a place. So it's in a ceiling. It's an up-down unit. The unit is up-down, so it's not like one tenant above or below another. That tenant has an up-down. So those are the fixtures you want. This is the work I started. You could see there's an obvious thing that needs done. I recognize the building. You might get a photograph from a picture from further back if you need to see, hey, I want to actually see that's, more detail there so I can get the size. And then you want an after. So you can actually see that the work was done. I haven't given them gone, kind of. I haven't gone, hey, here's $500. That's a retainer in case you need work. It's you have up to $500 that you can just do the work and then bill me. If it goes above that or it involves replacing an appliance, then you have to reach out with an email or a text. But it's no different than just saying, here's $500, right? That's a retainer. I have done the thing where a handyman calls and says, hey, I haven't had any work. I know you don't have anything right now. Can I borrow $2,000 or I'm going to lose my truck? And you just go, yeah. However, you're going to pay me back, not on payments, but 50% of every deal, every job you do for me going forward at the normal rate is you paying back that loan. That's kind of a retainer, but it was also bail out their problem. Dividend Dave, thanks. Let's just say I'm all into investing and farming from my head to my toes. That's pretty good. Brian Anderson, howdy. I have reached 2 units, one single family rental, and one duplex in Indy City. Awesome. Congratulations. Single family rental and one duplex in Indy. So that sounds like you're house hacking because it's 3 units. I invest in B2B area, B2B minus area for easy tenants. I want to invest in Phoenix, closer to California, and newer house. Question, what risk option in multi-city investing? Not knowing the market as well as you think you do. So do you have trusted boots on the ground in the Phoenix area? Not having your finger on the pulse of the rent study as easily. It's still possible. Knowing the weather patterns and what you do differently in an area, right? I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I know what we have to do in the winter. I know how air conditioning is handled with window units, not window mounted units, but window and hosed units. Know what's preferred in your area. Like you've got different markets to learn there. 2 or 3 markets, you're probably fine. But I know people, Frank, who might have a few markets and they start to see there's a lot of threads hanging from that sweater that might get pulled on. You've got multiple contractors to know, multiple laws and regulations on what needs a permit and what doesn't. So is it possible? Yes. Can you do it? I was almost going to do it. I was going to use Millennial Mike's systems and piggyback on his invest in Gary, Indiana. If I didn't find my next deal here in Washington, I would prefer one market. There is a form of diversification that comes from being in multiple markets too, though. So that's not that it's a negative. It's how much bandwidth do you have that you'll be competent and able to actually handle. Because Frank and Cynthia are doing great in multiple markets. It's a lot more thinking that I would want to do. And Frank he's just a lot smarter than me. Like when it comes to materials, I go to vent a hood and he rattled off like the 9 things that would be connected to make the vent happen. I couldn't do that when they were on the table in front of me. So maybe he's got the bandwidth for that and I don't. So the real question is, Brian, do you? And how long did it take you when the Matrix came out to get really tired of people calling you Mr. Anderson? Question 2, Should I take Lumberjack's course or his boot camp? I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. Good way to phrase it. I use a property manager, but want to improve my returns with better maintenance and save on repairs long term. I think so. Matt would be the best one to answer. He's a friend. I don't want to upsell him too much. I don't want to talk you into something. I know the course is going to help you because it's got a lot more than just managing the maintenance. So if it was me, it would be course, take it, absorb the information that gives you interactions with Matt, and then I would look at the boot camp if I didn't think I got what I needed yet, because that's all the hands on. That's more if you're going to be doing the repairs and maintenance. It's like I should take his boot camp every time it comes up. I don't because I don't want to be good at this stuff. But if somebody wants to be good at this stuff, this is how you do it. I don't want to be good at tenant turnover. That's why I want to buy properties where the tenant stays in place and low tenant turnover. Better at that. Takes less energy. I don't make as much. I'll be the first to admit Matt is destroying me on cash flow. But how free is free? Rob, there's no money in a side that makes sense. That's an interesting way. I like that. Lauren continues. He likes that I paid right away. That's good. And hopefully a tip sometimes. My thought, even if it's just like 50 bucks, depending on the size, right? If they do a $10,000 flooring job, I wouldn't throw $50 at them. It would be several hundred, and probably to the workers, not the owner. My thoughts are to replace my PM with him. So here's a way of looking at that, Laura. I don't know that I would replace the property manager with your handyman. I would replace the property manager with you and you manage the handyman. Because your handyman's not going to collect rent. Your handyman's not going to place a tenant, right? Your handyman's not going to do the property management side. They're going to do the maintenance side. So you would be managing them. I have he's a friend. For a while, he was a close friend until I realized how left he was. And now we can't even talk to each other. Imagine somebody being so far left and anti-gun and anti-capitalism that they have 30 rentals. Under dichotomy in the dictionary, it says gullible. Um, but he ran a property management company. And I've reached out to him several times to use as handyman. I go, hey, you got a guy that can do this? You got to, and his text every time is, sure, don't steal this guy. So I steal him. I was like, well, tip him better. Isn't that the socialist way? You have money. That's not fair. He should have more. Laura, continue. He likes to pay fast. I'm not crazy about him. I'm like super. But I don't want to fire her and go through 5 premiums like Zuber. Yeah, that's why I'd probably, if you have the handyman, I personally wouldn't want only one handyman. I'd want 3 or 4. So I'd go to the Andy B. Thank you for the super chat. I see it here finally. I think I missed it there for a second. That's been one of my chat the one time. Definitely the squirrel. I would probably go through 1 or 2 property managers before I quit, if I was going to do it myself. Laura, I would hire handymen, whether you find them through referrals from other investors or what I like to do, use the Thumbtack app, hire them for something small, a little drywall repair, retrue a door, which is an art, which I should show you. No, wouldn't make sense on video. Once you've hired him for a few things, and you develop that relationship, it's like, hey, I like to do a little tip every time. I like to pay fast. That's important. Paying fast, and don't make your handyman contractors wait on money. Don't pay them until the work is done. Right? You could do half and maybe materials, but I won't ever pay more than that until work is done. But once I had 3 or 4 handymen and investors that I talk to in the area where I invest, then I'd be more likely to go without a PM. CJ, good evening. Howdy. What's it make? Good question. I bought one with tenants and one without. I will buy with existing from here on out. I like that too, definitely. I've done both. I prefer with. Julie, I finally got an appointment with an attorney for a trust. Have you gotten yours done and any information on that? My brother did a trust. We should probably do a video with him on how he did it. A trust protects your heirs. It just matters. Do you care about your kids? That's why I haven't done mine yet. Apparently, I don't care about mine. I probably should get my trust done. I don't know if I'm going to set a timeline on it. Does make sense to do before sooner than later. Here's the question. Let's say you have rentals and you have kids and you want to trust because that's what it's for. Maybe your spouse. Do they have rentals? Like right now while you're alive? Because my brother, 10 paid off rentals, and he has two kids, and I've made several videos referencing them, sometimes in a positive light, sometimes in reality. But for a long time, they didn't have rentals. So let's say all the properties were in his name. It would go to probate, it'd be sold. Maybe if they're paid off, they might stay in their name if they could figure out the finances, but they wouldn't have the tax money sitting there. They wouldn't have the repair money sitting there, right? Most people live paycheck to paycheck. So they'd probably just go, yeah, we got to sell it all. So I go to probate, government gets a big check, lawyers get a big check, they get what's left. They get some money. Yay, dad's dead. Okay, that's how that works. Now let's say there's a trust. He's got 10 paid off rentals and he makes a trust and he names himself the president and he names his kids the second grand poobah and the lesser second grand poobah or whatever he wants to name them in this fictitious thing that doesn't really exist because this is what a trust is. Now, when he passes away, one of them becomes the president of the trust. Do they have the money for taxes? Do they have the money for repairs? Or are they living paycheck to paycheck? And would they take the trust and go, here, probate, sell it all, give the government a big check, give the lawyers a big check, and we get what's left? It changes nothing. Now, luckily for him, my nephew, he's the dumber of the two guy, but he has a rental. She's smart. He's like me. Like I'm Forrest. Is he like me or is he smart? Because he's like me. More of the dumbest in the Bronx. Like, I think he would have made a great Marine. Yeah. And we would argue over which crayon tastes better. But he has a rental. So now when his trust goes, he's going to have half a clue. I have to have reserves. I have to have tax money set up. There's going to be expenses. Yeah, rent will roll in, but that money is not all mine to spend. Like he's got a clue. So is the trust going to survive any better than mine will? Because none of my kids have rentals. Trust won't help them at all. It isn't going to change any cost with probate and attorneys. It's going to be sold. They're going to get what's left after it gets government. There's an R word I'm not going to use. Unburdened by what has been burdened. When the government takes their share and they get what's left, trust or not, that's what would end. Julie, do the people you put in the trust who are going to benefit from the trust actually know what they're going to get, have the reserves, the knowledge, willing to accept the responsibility? Or are you wasting a bunch of money on a trust that's going to go to probate just like the properties and assets would? Maybe that's a whole standalone video. Legacy, good job, Julie. Trust is very important and has tax benefits as well. Yes. Rob, took back a message to make me lose sleep forever and ever and wonder what was said. That's scary. Can't hear any background noise? No, it's crazy. Thanks. One tenant, Oculus. One, thank you, Dennis and Jester. I appreciate that. That is so crazy. I was doing an interview one time. So I don't know if you noticed, but every time I'm on BiggerPockets, I've got AirPods in because they're like, oh, the sound has to be a certain way. So they don't want the echo. I don't get the echo on my Zoom on anything else. But I had like a space heater going because I'm a desert rat and I live in Washington. And they're like, nope, it sounds like there's an airplane landing on your roof. And I was like, okay. But I've done Zooms where there was an electrician drilling on the floor and everybody's like, we can't hear it. It's weird. I didn't have a point. I had a random thought. Oculus. One tenant I may inherit has a zero security deposit on rent roll. What would Dion do? I would negotiate with them on building a deposit. They don't have to, but you don't have to renew the lease without one. And I don't know that what have I done? The one time I had a tenant turnover and there was a zero period of time tenant turnover. Tenant had the property, tenant had a roommate move in, and then they moved out like the next month. So it's a new lease, but they were already there. I didn't go, hey, you have a new lease now. You have to come up with a deposit. I said, your deposit is $2,000. We're going to do $500 a month for 4 months to build your deposit. what can they negotiate to, and what's fair based on the rent that you have. Make sure your deposit is less than your rent. Most areas, that's the new legal standard. Doesn't mean it is the standard. It just means in most areas it is the legal standard. Michelle, thank you. Brian, Dan, what kind of blinds do you do? Nice wooden or cellular one with the cheap plastic aluminum one? And why not curtain? Not, it's cheaper. Curtains are disgusting like carpet. They retain dust and particles in the air, and words are hard because we're 2 hours in, and this was a lot fuller when I started. I grew up in Southern California, Manuel, so I don't speak Spanish. I just know how to yell at everybody. I was the little white kid that got beat up in the onion fields out in Bakersfield, Roseman area, because I was taking their job. I didn't fit in. But did you know that when there's a group of kids and you're 8 and they're all 8 to 10, and you get beat up like 10 times in a month, they become your closest friends for like I have an abuela. I like crazy how the world works. I don't think I won once. Okay. Brian, kind of blind. So I go with the faux wood. They're white plastic about like this, Levolor from Lowe's. I put them in everywhere. Usually cost somewhere between $500 and $1,000, depending on the number of windows. You go to Lowe's, go to the Lowe's in your area. Here's a tip. Home Depot probably has them too. But I just live next to a Lowe's. Everyone I've done so far, it's been from Lowe's, one from Home Depot. Didn't like the Home Depot one as much. So I'll get to the super chat in just a second. You go in and measure your windows left to right. They cut them down to size. If you go in and let's say your window is 46 inches and you go in and they sell a 46-inch blind, that's probably not the number. I'm using the matching numbers to show a point. The blinds are actually ½ inch shorter than what they say measured to. So you measure the actual distance inside and you go in and you have them do it. You have to tell them this is the exact size. They'll cut it to the exact size. If you just buy the one because it says it's the right length, remember it's a ½ inch shorter than what it actually says. Once you have them cut, can't take them back. They're not usable. Right? They're not going to store hundreds and hundreds of cut blinds because somebody might have a 32-inch and 3/4 window someday in the future. So measure twice, have them cut it once. I would like to measure a little longer. You can make small adjustment cuts with, like a chop saw if you need to. I wouldn't do that too much because it'll be a little uneven because the machine cuts it right in the middle. But don't like curtains. Tenants are allowed to put up curtains if they want to black out a room, but that's not a me thing. I don't have curtains where I live. And in some windows, I don't even have blinds, which is why the sun hits me right in the face sometimes. I don't like the cheap aluminum ones. There's one time I did a tenant turnover and I had the cheap aluminum blinds, but they were immaculate. They weren't even dusty. I was like, I usually rip these out and I put in the other ones. I don't know if they get me any more rent. I like the way they look. I've never had a broken one yet. And I thought, I'll just leave them in this once. Like a week later, I was going by and I see the tenant. They have a German Shepherd that has turned all of those blinds into shredded curtains. I'm like, I think I'll just leave that and have the tenant pay for it when they move out because that's not a me problem. That's a them problem. They live there, not me. I don't care what the inside looks like. So hope that answers, Brian. And the super chat popped up from Jeffrey White from PTO for Life. Thank you, Dion, for helping and thinking of the W2 people. That is a YouTube channel you should be taking out. They have got some much more creative videos than I do, and they have more energy, so they might continue to edit videos longer than I did, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't edited one in months. I don't think I'm going to. It's kind of like real estate. If I had to be good, I would quit. But Jeff and Suleika are killing it, and they have some great information. So if you're looking for serial house hackers that can show you how this can actually impact you at about half the age that I am, PTO for Life, somebody you should check out. And well, I thought I spoke Spanish growing up in Southern California until I got to Colombia. And then I realized I don't speak Spanish. But to be fair, they don't either. I have to answer this really quick. Tenant asking a question. They are important. Michelle, question: do you tip for any all jobs, even if things are a lot? Roof 15,000. So for 15,000, I tip Scott. Yeah, I did the first time. Second time, I got. I think he got angry because I tipped his workers, and he said, "You know, my guy makes about 130,000 a year." I was like, "Yeah, but he likes beer," and I told him it was for beer. So I usually, like I said, the bigger the job, the more likely I am to tip the worker. Now, if it's a contractor and they're handling several subcontractors, but they're not charging me a contractor fee, like if they just go, "Yeah, I got a plumber, he'll come do this," and I pay him separately, but he didn't do it and it's his guy, then I'll usually tip. A lot of times on the smaller jobs, I'll say, okay, there's also a $500 or $1,000 tip involved here on this day. And then every day after that, it goes down $200 or $100 or whatever makes sense to try to keep them to a timeline. Also makes them laugh because sometimes they don't care about that kind of stuff. But no, I don't tip on all jobs. I almost always tip the workers. But with the roofing company, Michelle, if you're using the one that I recommended, which is Clearview Exteriors out of Yelm, that Wall, Thurston, and Pearson all around here, great price, great crew. Uh, I'd still tip their workers. I think I'm going to the next time I use them because I'm trying to think. I probably have a roof in like 2 years from now. I'll almost always go to the workers and do one or two, depending on how many guys there are, $100 or $200, and say it's for beer on after the job because they have an actual reason to buy stuff. Wealth building journey. That makes everyone take the course before they can take the boot camp. There you go. Thank you. The boot camp covers everything in the course. So it's like a deeper dive. Yeah. Okay, mess. Thank you, Dion. I'm heading to your website to take advantage of your free binder strategy course. Thank you. Esther, is there members only Zoom? No, we did 2 this month already. So next month I'll be on a Saturday or a Sunday. And all for the month of October, there is course Zooms on Tuesdays. Alex, trust also protects you in case you become incapacitated, so you have someone to speak on your behalf. Correct. Just like you could do a power of attorney, same question. Do the people in the trust, would my brother want my nephew and niece to come and run his rentals if he was incapacitated? Or would he just expect me to? Because he knows I would. And I wouldn't take a penny. I would just do it. Although after Thursday, I'm making a video with my brother on Thursday, and he might not talk to me after this because it's going to be based on the sad, sad, sad reality of early retirement. And he is the example. He's bigger than me, he's stronger than me, he hits harder than me. In a situation where I'm not allowed to hit back, it's not going to be fun. It'll be funny. And people are going to learn something. And Laura, that is exactly what I want to do. I want to manage and I want him to take care of the duplex while I'm out of the country. I do tip them. They are surprised that I do. Most people are, especially in that industry. Like I was a furniture delivery guy, I own my own company. And once in a while, and it was funny. I've no kidding, literally delivered on Mercer Island to Bill Gates's guest house. No tip, not talked to, just the help. Versus deliver to a trailer park, retired person on fixed income that rolls out the $20 bill and puts it in my hand because it meant something. That meant something. Old guy REI. Hey, Dion, thanks for all the great information. Tuesdays haven't been the same since we found you even better than Taco Tuesdays. There is no reason why we can't have tacos on Tuesday. So, Frank, when you guys move here, I will expect that we have Taco Tuesdays. I'll just bring a camera. I think we have caught up with all of the questions for tonight. Thank you, Jeff. And yes, thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. It is much appreciated. Ben, baby due in December. Congratulations. How would you recommend the 4X rule when retiring while still paying for large child expenses? Private high school, should I base the 4X off expenses after they move out current expenses? So if they're due in December, you're talking high school 15 years from now, if that's how math works. And who knows what private high school is going to cost in the future? A lot of variables there. So I would probably do the lumberjack landlord way if I had young kids and I was doing that and I wanted to retire while they were young. 4x rule off conservative numbers, meaning larger, right? Meaning more safe in estimation in an asset that definitely benefits from inflation. I really like what Brandon Turner did with his kid, Rose. And he's talked about this. It's in his book, which I think I have here somewhere. Uh, Rose was born, he bought a fourplex on a 15-year note. I don't know if this makes sense now. Maybe it'd be a 30-year note and you just refinance then. But when the kid turns 18, so this place is cash flowing the entire time he has it, right? Rents go up, mortgage stays the same, goes up a little, but rents go up more. And then when the kid's 15, he doesn't give him the asset. It's not theirs, it's his. He gives him the equity. So he can sell it or do it because he did a 15-year note. It was paid off when they were 18. He'll do a full cash out refinance of this fourplex that he probably bought for 200 or 300,000 that's now worth $1 million in Aberdeen, Washington, because the way prices work. Takes out that loan like an 80% LTV. So his cash flow on a paid off property would be huge going forward. Like maybe she just wants that. Or he does a cash out and gives her the hundreds of $1,000s for college, for trade school, for first investment, for whatever she's doing. And now he's got a mortgage on a property that the cash flow stays consistently positive again. That's a way to do it. And it's always hard to deal with this when somebody is having a baby or has young kids. And how can I say this without sounding insensitive? I'm just going to sound insensitive. I'll be transparent and hope it helps you. Because let's just say at the end of me talking, Ben, you don't like me, but this helps you. I'm okay with that. 12% of very wealthy people inherited their wealth. It means 88% of us are self-made. I inherited, oh, it's in the other room now, a 12 gauge shotgun and a 44 Magnum. Right? Pistol from my mom, shotgun from my dad. That's it. Not a penny, nothing else. It's one of the reasons I wanted to reach financial freedom. It's one of the motivating factors that made me successful in most of the things I've done. When you think of investing and you think of, like, I don't want any of my kids to go to school. My son barely survived not coming out a fully indoctrinated communist, because that's what college is now. First, it's 60% female. So everything male is toxic. There's no way that you're allowed to be an actual guy. So I don't want my kids to go to school. I have a daughter that didn't even go to college and she ended up liberal. So, which is totally fine, because if you don't vote Democrat when you're 20, you have no heart. If you don't vote Republican when you're 40, you have no brain. I get the math. Here's the most important thing you can do for your kid, Ben. Not so much the retired, not so much what you're going to give to them, what they're going to inherit, what you're going to teach them. Because the more you try to teach them, the more they're going to rebel. That's just a thing. The most important thing you can do is take care of your personal finances so that when you get too old to work, you don't become a financial burden to your kids. How many people do you know? Because I know several myself, where their parent, like they're in their 40s or 50s, and their parent is on their cell phone plan. It's on their insurance. I have a video coming out. I might do this Friday in addition to the video with my brother, who did not do his binder yet because he had some reasons why he couldn't take a trip. And so he hasn't had a chance to, but he'll be doing it later this year. And I will definitely be making the video on how his binder went. We're going to make a new one for when he goes, because I made one, but it's a couple months old now and you need fresh data when you're talking to those tenants. So he will. But the video that's coming out on Thursday, I have a couple I want to make. It's driving me crazy that I haven't had a chance to do it because I'm trying to keep them the same consistent 3 videos a week. One is I want to make you're smarter than me. I'm richer than you. Here's why. It's going to be a super rude, super condescending video, and hopefully people understand sarcasm. I'm actually going to be so sarcastic. I want Matt, the lumberjack landlord, in that video. But the other one I want to do is, and I just had the thought. Oh no. Did the Emperor's Groove fall away? Don't tell me that I lost it. I think I took a note, which might help. why you're probably going to inherit a lot less than you expect. And I have several reasons why even the people who think they have an inheritance coming aren't going to get it. The most important thing for you is that they don't inherit you as a liability. And you do speak Spanish, Michelle. Just not Colombian Spanish. It's pare, right? It's alto. It doesn't have a cuss word in it. It just says a cuss thing. Let me know if it's okay to say a bad thing at the end of a video. What are folks doing for health insurance if you're not former military? So, first of all, military generally only get health insurance if you retired, and some of us only did 6 years. And so you don't get health insurance from the VA. And a lot of people who wanted to do 20 years get to 17 and they get pushed out. So they don't get it either. But here's what you do for healthcare. This is whether you were in the military or not. It costs money to eat food, right? It does. Like food is not free. You can grow food, but that means you need the land and the water and the source of heat to eat it. Whatever you're going to do for the food, even hunting, you got to pay for the license because we live in America, land of the free, where nothing is. And nobody says, I would retire, except, man, I need to eat, right? It has an expense. I spend about $2,000 a month. My goal is 2,000 a month. I don't know that I've hit it yet. I've always want to require myself to do that. I try to, but it's really hard to get up that high when you're single. Which is something I will talk about in the sad, sad truth of early retirement with my brother, which I'm really looking forward to. And sometimes I do a video for me, even if it's just because I want him to hit me again. It's been a while. I can say just the right things to him. Travel to get to the store, to get to the doctor's office if you're worried about healthcare. All of this costs money. An Uber would cost money, registration, insurance, upkeep and maintenance on your vehicle, the cost of your vehicle, all that. But nobody says I would retire except, man, I like having a car. But so many people say, I'd retire, but healthcare, what do you do? This is how indoctrinated we are and trapped in the wage slave matrix of the rat race. Your boss is not going to pay for your chemo. They're not going to pay your $7,000 deductible. They're not going to pay once your dental hits 2,000 and you got to go for a $4,000, get 2 crowns done or whatever. That's coming out of your pocket. Your deductible's coming out of your pocket. The money above the insurance costs are coming out of your pocket, not your boss's. What your boss is doing right now, the drug that kills your dreams, is paying your paycheck, and part of your paycheck pays a part of the premium. Let's say insurance costs $10,000 a month. Okay. I need rentals that produce $10,000 a month to cover insurance. My car, I want a $2,000 a month vehicle. I have a duplex for vehicle. I have a triplex for travel. I have a vodka fourplex. I talk about it often. I have the healthcare asset. Health insurance doesn't cost $10,000 a month. For most of us, it costs around $700 a person, maybe $9, for depending on what you want. And then if you invest in real estate and you use depreciation and write-offs to make it look like you have zero income or lost money on paper, carry forward a loss from last year, thank you, Obamacare, you get all your money back because the ACA says you don't make any money. And so here's your, whatever they call the money paid back for the $700 or $800 a month you're paying for insurance. So it doesn't cost you anything. You still have your deductible. You still have anything that goes over your insurance. So an asset for every expense. But how many people do we, and I know many, oh, I would totally quit. I don't want this job, but I need the healthcare. Well, you need to eat. So you buy an asset for that. And you want to wear clothes. You want to entertain yourself. You want to scuba dive all over the country. So you buy an asset for that. You buy an asset for healthcare. Now in the US, $700 to $1,100 a person. You might be like Matt. You might have a spouse, somewhere between 3 and 12 kids. I don't know. They have a few more. And it's going to be $3,000 a month for healthcare. And you had to create an LLC and hire a couple people to put it into it. Like you can do all these things to get a better rate because they had pre-existing things that need treatment for. Like there's a creative way to do it. So that's the questions. In your situation, what are the creative ways to do healthcare more affordably? You can join. It's not something I would do because if I had one, I've already sold it. But you can join a religious organization that has healthcare as a group. That's in the US. It's going to cost that much. If you geo arbitrage, like I'm going to spend, I don't know, months in Thailand this winter, it's $60 a month for a couple to have better healthcare coverage than what we have in the US for that 700 to 1100 a month per person. So I'm hoping that you don't let healthcare expense keep you trapped in a job when all the job is doing is paying the premium. And maybe it's only 80 or 90% of the premium. So that's what you have now. Instead of $1,000 a month, maybe $2,000 a month, 3,000 depending on your family, you have housing, a house hack to handle that. You have vehicle, you have food, you have all this kind of stuff. Just look at your healthcare as just an expense. Say anything that I can say something bad because this is what I was told all the time in the field. ADB trucking. You just need to be around it a lot more, but it's amazing that even when you don't use it often, you still speak it. This is this is what I was told. I'm about to end the video. Thank you all for hanging out with me on a Tuesday. I'm going to end this with no cuss words, not even in their native language, sort of. But when you are an 8-year-old to a 10-year-old Caucasian male working in the onion fields in California with your mom, because your dad left, all of the Latino boys, as they're pounding your head into the dirt before they become your closest friends, constantly say, chupa mi carne pistola.